Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 4th, 2023 meeting of the Hatfield Select Board. We're going to do things just a little bit out of order tonight. We actually have two agenda items, and both of the people here are scheduled to be other places. So we're going to skip over some of the things we normally do in the meeting at the beginning, but we'll get back to them. So first, we're joined by Patrick Brock from the Hampshire County Retirement Board. Would you like to come up to the seat with the microphone? And you are here tonight to do a presentation regarding Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022, which is regarding COLA increases for retirees.
And since Senator Comerford is here, you'll learn a lot more from her than you could ever from me. So I'll keep mine short. It's a unique opportunity where the legislature took a careful look at the COLA for the retirees in the state. They passed a COLA, they normally do it 3%. This year they increased it for 5% for the state employees and state retirees. In the budget, there's a separate section that covers all the 102 other retirement systems. And Governor Baker sent that back to the legislature and said that it needed to be clearer and better read, and he thought that since this is a very unique thing, that we've been giving 3% on a base since 1997. So he wanted the chief executive officer of the municipality to vote on it. And in the county government, since we don't have a county government, we're actually called a regional retirement system. Our normal legislative group is our advisory council made up of treasurers. So I'm traveling to the 18 town boards, select boards, and asking you for the vote. I presented the material ahead of time. Hope you had a chance to look at it. The legislation, the explanation from PAREC, the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, which guides us on that. And I'm doing in person since I probably am the longest serving on the board or the staff that has a lot of history behind me. So I can talk forever, and the senator knows that when she visits my office.
So where does the money come from?
The money comes from the pension fund.
Okay.
So
the Hampshire County Pension
Hampshire
Fund.
County Retirement System serves 37 units, 18 towns, and then a myriad of units of water districts, housing authorities, regional school districts, and everything else. You pay a pretty large appropriation every year to the retirement system, and in fact, when I joined the system, the balance in the bank in 1986 was $15 million. In 1989, they were moving from a pay-as-you-go system. They passed major legislation and said we were going to fund the system, because pay-as-you-go is an intergenerational transfer, so those future employees were paying for the people that have already retired. By funding the system and getting the investment returns at a higher rate than a bond portfolio, we can put money aside, and when people retire, the money will be there for their retirement. We could get into this really deep, but so basically...
No, that's okay. The town isn't funding these, is basically what I was getting. I mean, we do in our...
We will eventually.
Right.
So the thing is, we have enough money in the bank that if you approve this, we will make it retroactive to all the employees. They will get most $260 for this past year, the FY23. And that's those people that are making $13,000 more. If you're making less than 13, you only get the extra 2% on whatever amount you're less. There's a lot of good things about what we do. One of the things we do is we've always looked at the teachers that are in our towns that are members of the teachers' retirement system. They've already have had this approved and are getting the money, so that they get instead of 3%, they got moved up to 5% on the first 13,000. Okay. I like that because local boards have the opportunity to increase the base and give more retirement. Hampshire County has been really focused on funding the system. And in fact, we've had a couple of good years. We were able to reduce the schedule, and we're getting down to 2032. And I get nervous when you don't have a lot of time in front of you if you have a bad year or something. So we had that in 2008 where we had to extend the schedule from 2028 to 2040. I think 2032 is a good thing for us, and we've worked hard at that. So I'm just running around asking for votes to approve. The board discussed this at length. We have voted unanimously to approve it. I've been to 4 select board meetings in the last week, and all 4 voted unanimously to do it. One board member said, "You were interesting, but you spoke too long." So I'm going to try to keep it short. If you have any other questions on the call, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Just for clarification.
Sure.
So first off, thank you for coming here, and thank you with supplying
I believe meeting
the
in
information.
person. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for the folks here and the residents that are watching this,
Right.
what the ask is to increase an already provided 3% COLA for fiscal year '23 up to 5%. So add 2%.
Right.
Retroactive to July of 2022,
Correct.
right?
Simple.
Got it. I'll make a motion to move the Hatfield Select Board approve Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022, an act relative to cost of living adjustments for retirees, and further direct the Hatfield administration to notify the Hampshire County Retirement System in writing of this vote.
I'll second that, and thank you for coming. And I know this is not uncommon throughout the state over the years to give 3% on the first 13,000
And the
to
law
retirees.
allowed, since '97, the law allowed the retirement boards to do that. So,
So you have a second, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yep.
A motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great,
I want to
thank you for coming.
and I will report to the other select boards that Hatfield was the best.
I bet you say that to all of them.
Yeah,
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brock. So now we're, really honored to welcome Senator Comerford for the evening. Well, not for the evening. I know you probably have, if you'd like to stay, let me warn you that these have been marathons lately.
I do love Hatfield. However, I will go to another event. But
That's fine.
But thank you. I just want to say the high regard in which I hold the retirement system and Patrick Brock. So I'm grateful that he came tonight, that I got to hear his good work. And I'm really so grateful for your work and for the town of Hatfield's intrepid pursuit of what's good for your people. And it's such an honor to do this work with you.
Well, I mean, we have to backtrack a little bit and now that we have the chance to thank you in person for the extra funding you were able to secure for, the unanticipated work that was required out on the Route 5 project. I think townspeople have, I know they know, but they don't know the enormity of what you did. And we're just so incredibly grateful for that.
Yes.
Well, it was a team effort, absolutely, right? I mean, the town clearly demonstrated the unanticipated nature of the costs and everything you did to try to mitigate the costs. And then, kudos really to Ashley Stolba and Juan Vega, who we're very happy are now in the Healy-Driscoll administration. I just saw Undersecretary Stolba, and she was like, Hatfield. It's like one of, and of course, Undersecretary Vega is, it's one of his favorite projects ever. And of course, Rep. Sabadosa is a partner for Hatfield going forward now and going forward. So, I'm grateful to do the work. And yes, it was total team Hatfield time.
Heavy lift, and we appreciate it.
For sure.
And had
It was the right thing to do.
Huge positive implications here, so we thank you for that. And I'm delighted that Ashley Stolba's staying on as well in economic development. Did you want to open with anything? We have a couple of, few things we'd like to run by you, but.
Well, I do have your questions.
Okay.
That you sent in advance to Elena Cohen, our district director, which perhaps you were going to run me through, which is just great.
Sure.
I should say to you, just because it's the beginning of a session, that I am really delighted and, honored to go back to the legislature, third time. So, I'm heading into my 5th year. And this year I am the Senate chair of the Joint Committee on Higher Education. I've been appointed the vice chair of agriculture, which I'm actually delighted about because I file a number of the ag bills. It's not a surprise, why? Because I represent communities like Hadley that has some of the most important farming in the Commonwealth. and, really linchpin farmers, right? Showing us how it's done. How do you keep generational farms going? You just have to look here, go down this road.
Right.
So I'm happy about that. I share that with Natalie Blais. Rep. Blais, who's vice chair on the House side, and Ann Goby is Senate chair on the Senate side, so it feels like we're Western Mass strong. You may remember that we did get a big ag bill. Natalie and I have a big omnibus bill, and we got it into the Senate, and then, as you know, last session, the economic development bill didn't go through as we had liked. It was a deep disappointment. So we're back, and we've got some good ag bills hoping to make farmers' ends meet much better than we do right now as a Commonwealth. That's a separate thing. I'm also the assistant vice chair of Ways and Means now, and on Senate rules. And so what that means is that I'm now in Senate leadership. It's new, it's early days for Senate leadership, but what I hope this affords me is more of an opportunity to talk about rural Western Massachusetts and the reality that one-size-fits-all policy doesn't work for us out here. I'm really delighted that the Healy-Driscoll administration, in its first 100 days, established an Office of Rural Policy. That has been something that we've wanted for a very long time. I know you know that, Chair. And, it's been on the list of to-dos, and they did it because they had the power to do it. And, I feel like that will be a very important position. It's the first time in state government that we'll see a person dedicated to both advocating for our budget and spending priorities, right? Our spending and revenue priorities, I should say, and then also policies that make sense for us. The person is also going to look at grant programs, and you want to talk a little bit tonight about grants, to look at the ways in which they work or don't work for us. For example, housing programs that require water sewer hookups when all we have is septic and wells in some cases out here, right? They're not going to work for us. Or housing projects that prioritize 100 units when 10 will do for us for elder housing, right? And so I believe that Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll have heard the call for a rural agenda. I know colleagues and I in the House have been talking with them a good bit since they were sworn in and even before. So I'm very hopeful. Do I think it's all going to be solved without your good advocacy? Absolutely not. Do I think you have to hold me accountable? Absolutely. But I think it's our time to push. And I'm so glad to have your smart, good questions and real urgency on the part of Hadley, because we haven't gotten it right.
Hatfield.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hatfield. I meant Hatfield.
It's okay, we know. So,
Thank you,
and on the looking at grants and the challenges for rural communities, MassWorks is another one that has, there always has to be the job creation component. And as you said, they're looking for 100, but around here 10 will do. So
Exactly.
Because even for the project out on 5 and 10, we had to apply for that a few times, I think, before we were able to get it. It was because we just can't compete, with a similar sewer project in a Natick or a Framingham and the jobs that it's going to create. So
Exactly.
we know you know this, but
it's important that you say it,
Yep.
because I have to be held accountable to make sure it happens. Now that we have a person in government in the economic development line, so this person will report to Undersecretary Stolba, which is the MassWorks line.
Excellent.
So it's a perfect placement for this person.
That's great.
And we're looking for people right now to fill it. So
And so that sort of folds over into, I've heard the governor allude to a MassWorks style housing grant program. I'm not sure that any of it's been really flushed out or announced or anything like that, but that's something that I think communities like Hatfield, because we haven't had a lot of, housing development, and, we need to, it would be nice for us to sort of know what might be coming
yes,
as soon as it's available, so that if we choose to try to be competitive in that realm, that we do the things we may need to do.
absolutely. It hasn't been flushed out yet. But the good thing is that you probably know that the governor filed basically a disaggregation of the Economic Office of, the Executive Office of Economic Development and Housing. So EOHED
Yep.
is just going to become the Executive Office of Economic Development.
Right.
And there will be a Secretariat of Housing and Livable Communities. And that is, I think, important. I do believe it's her understanding, which I think is correct, that housing is one of the most existential crises of our time currently in government. Here in Western Massachusetts, we're predicting, thanks to a Wayfinder study that just recently was released, you may have seen this, a 13,000 unit gap in our region in the next couple of years.
Right.
And we're not producing, even though housing production has increased, we're nowhere near closing that gap.
Right. Which folds into why we don't have the workforce we need and everything
Exactly.
else, so.
Exactly, right. If we can't get workforce housing, family housing, individual housing, we're not going to be able to attract people to our communities who then can fill these jobs, and then we're not going to attract employers, right? So it becomes this downward spiral. And so, kudos to the governor for wanting to go back up and then layering on top of that and understanding that, we need a housing program that works for all municipalities, including Hatfield.
Money.
Yeah,
Let's talk about, local aid.
yeah.
I know there's been some talk of increases in local aid, and obviously, it's not budget time yet, but, well, it is budget time, but I mean,
yeah.
it's not,
So I believe we need to relook at unrestricted government aid, UGA. It's a terrible acronym. I have talked to Senate leadership about this. I think we should open it up. Probably the bigger, wealthier towns won't be so psyched. But it is, for a community like Hatfield, it is a key piece of government spending for the reasons that you know better than I. The grants that you're able to go for, the personnel to manage the grants, right? We just need some core aid coming in without Hatfield having to do anything. And so the Senate has always been good on UGA. The chair of Ways and Means has valued it. So you've seen it gone up in past years in the Senate budget. It's certainly on my list on behalf of communities like Hatfield. But I think we have to do more, which is why I think we have to open up the formula and really look at the assumptions in that formula. Another formula we have to open up is Chapter 90. It's been 50 years since we've looked at 90. You might have seen that when we passed the transportation bill recently, I was pretty grateful that the Senate included $25 million that would be allocated based on miles, not people in miles
Right.
and jobs. And, that's very much like the winter road assistance money. And, I'm not alone in the Senate in pushing for this, right? We've had a strong delegation, Ann Goby pounds that pavement. Certainly, people up and down the 91 corridor. This is critical. It's critical. And it's time that 90 was looked at. And if they're not going to look at 90, then they have to have big pots of money that is allocated fairly, like the winter road money was. So I think 25 million is a great start. Do I think it's the end? No.
I mean, because everything in that world is so much more expensive now too.
Yes.
So we're able to do even less
Right.
with what we had,
Right. No, it's true. I mean,
Yes.
40%
I
up.
mean, one thing that's always kicks us, and I'm sure it happens statewide, is 2.5.
Yes.
Because we can have departments stay within 2.5, but there's so many things we have no control over, like gas and fuel and
Yes.
parts, and the school system's always above 2.5, and we're always struggling with that. So I don't know if they could do something on your end to help small towns with 2.5 when it comes down to the finances.
Well, it's really good that you brought that up. In 2019, Rep. Lay and I had a bill that was looking at the collision between especially school costs and 2.5. And the terrible choices. As you know, there are towns in our district that are really right at that levy limit, not able to go very much farther for very much longer. So they're already having,
Yeah,
I know. No, I know. But there even are, as you know, like higher. Anyway, we won't mention those. But so there was a study done that looked at the collision between what the state asks us to pay for schools and the levy limit. There is a burgeoning conversation that I'm happy to be part of on behalf of Hatfield that's going to look at the combined effort yield calculation, which is what the state tells us that we can and should pay in Hatfield. And as you know, that's based on another algorithm. And then, as you know, it's capped at 82.5%, because the thought there is that, the towns and the state both need some skin in the game, and so towns are going to be capped, the state will come in, but it doesn't work because towns out here struggle to get to that 82.5%, but the bigger, wealthier towns, Concord, Lexington, Wellesley, Winchester, they could pay 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times what the state says that they can and should pay. And so what it means, and I won't get too nerdy, but what it means is that we are ultimately over time, because we are not capped, right? Like we're getting to that cap, but some of these other towns are, could pay so much more because they're wealthier and bigger. It means that plus the fact that communities pay 59%, the state pays 41% of education costs over time, an average. It means that the burden is going disproportionately to communities that are struggling to meet the state's Chapter 70 threshold. And so that was a discussion point at the Education Ways and Means. Sorry if I totally put you to sleep. But it was a big point of discussion in the Senate Ways and Means, not Senate Ways and Means, House and Senate Ways and Means hearing that I chaired at UMass on March 13th. And we got the Education Secretary, Dr. Tutwiler, a very good guy, to agree to open a Chapter 70 discussion with stakeholders and look at the calculations and the ways in which they are disproportionately burdening communities like Hatfield.
Right, because some systems can spend more per student
Exactly.
than what we can, so we're limited, and it doesn't seem fair.
Well, because you're getting to the amount that the state says that you can and should pay.
Right.
Other communities can get to that amount easily, and then they spend over that amount, right? But I think the question I have to ask on your behalf is that a fair amount? If Wellesley can pay 10 times what the state says it can and should pay, is that fair? That Hatfield struggles just to pay that amount? I don't think so. Don't the students in Hatfield deserve the same kind of education? Yes.
Right.
And then what's more, is it fair that Wellesley then can pay all of this over foundation spending? Well, it's good for Wellesley, but it's not equitable. The other thing I'll say about that is I have filed a rural schools bill with Rep. Blay, and that I think will also be useful in opening up the conversation about really what it means to have a rural school or a declining enrollment school. We see these now as sisters through this process. So Gil Montague may not be a rural per se school, but they have a declining enrollment situation. Greenfield has a declining enrollment situation. So that is true. I mean, Hatfield lost students last year to this year too. It hasn't been what you've thought traditionally about Hatfield, though, because you have a rural issue that has to do with low population because you're in a beautiful rural town. Mm-hmm. So we have to open up the rural schools bill. We've asked for more money for rural schools. That would benefit Hatfield. Oh my God, have mercy on the ages. It would benefit Hatfield. And we could do so much more. We can open up healthcare. We can open up special education funding. We can do a lot more to help Hatfield schools than we are.
That would be great.
Well, and along those lines, Joe, one of the questions that I had put forth was just the reimbursement for charter schools.
Yes.
I mean, that is just really a disproportionate, you spend 12 or 13,000 to send and you don't get the money back. And I think Marlene ran the numbers, I think we spent 300,000 or so.
I saw that.
Yes.
And you got 90 back.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, again, to your point, a small rural community with $200,000 in a school budget is huge for us.
It's massive.
Or the lack of $200,000 is
Yeah.
huge for us, I guess I should say. So, and we've had this, not you and I, but we've had this conversation back when I was on the school committee years ago. It just, I don't know, it's been the same formula forever. So do you know if maybe that could be brought into the conversation about rural communities and Chapter 70 in general when everything's
Yes.
being looked at?
No, I love that you put this in on the list. It has to be. Look, here's my view on charter schools. I think it's the state's fault, right? It's a state problem. People often take it to the, supermarket aisle to duke it out. It doesn't really belong there. Right. It really is a state issue. We've created these charter schools. We're allowing them in some places to proliferate, even as we are struggling with population decline, although we have to reverse that, in Western Massachusetts, and even as we struggle to maintain kids in our schools. So it has to happen. And, so we need charter reform in the Commonwealth. And I think that comes with money, honestly, right? The 3-year, wean off of students. Well, I don't know, students are in school for more than 3 years, right? So which is your net loss, massive net loss. And we also need other reforms. We need policy reforms when it comes to charters so that district schools and charter schools can coexist in a way that is more equally beneficial than they are now. People ask me all the time, am I anti-charter? Because I have some pretty strong statements about charter schools. I am not anti-charter. I am anti the way that it's that policy that has not been regulated well by the state is affecting communities. And I do think it would be hard to come home to you in 2 years if I hadn't done work on it to try to find a path forward. And if you're going to ask me if I think it's going to be easy, no way, because there's lots of different forces aligned. And there's, good things about charter schools and good things about district schools, and families want their choices. But I do think, the numbers are not looking good, and we really do have to figure out how everybody, how there's an upward tide for all schools. It's pretty critical.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more ARPA funds coming that you're aware of? And could any of them be for large, what do you see potentially coming? And could it be large enough for larger public projects? And how would we position ourselves?
Yeah, so very good question. So the ARPA money, because of a decision by the Baker administration, was allocated in full last fiscal year. Does that mean it's gone? No. It means it has been, though, pushed forward into agencies. There is surplus money, some of which you'll see being spent, currently, for example, like the school meals money, which I believe was, just pushed through quickly and on the part of the governor, which I think is a good decision. It's a good anti-poverty measure.
Right.
And certainly we don't want municipalities to pay that bill. And you can't pay it, right? But the ARPA money is sitting in places like DHCD for housing and MassDOT and economic development. So in terms of positioning and it is, we're now seeing it in the bigger grant buckets. So I think in terms of positioning Hatfield properly, relative to me and my team, it would be to tell me your biggest priorities, which you've done so well in past sessions, right? Which is one of the reasons I want to come and talk to you tonight. So tell me your biggest priorities. Tell me the agencies you want to talk to. Tell me the grants you want to go get. And we'll start to work with you. It is one of the reasons I'm making these rounds to communities. Excuse me. And by the way, thank you to Lydia. I have allergies. So you saved me. Oh, I thought she was here. Saved me with a cup of water. So that's what we should be talking about. Is it do you have another MassWorks program that you're interested in? Are you looking for municipal vulnerability? Should we do some water sewer? Anything like that, the big money items, we should be talking, Elena and Hatfield and I. So maybe we could follow up and schedule a meeting to just go over your big project list.
Well, and actually, that's a good opportunity to thank and acknowledge your staff, too, because they're
Elena's great.
exceptional.
Great.
And then I had added one on here about GIC. And, we struggle with health insurance and paying health insurance. We would like to be paying a higher percentage for our employees, which, will help us with retention and attraction for employees. Municipalities, like all employers, are struggling with that right now. So we've sat down with GIC. Marlene and I did that a while ago, and it just doesn't seem to work for Hatfield. It doesn't give us there's no
benefit.
There's no financial benefit to going with GIC, even though it's such a good program. So I'm just wondering, again, maybe it gets back to just formulas and whatever, but it just seems like I just wish we could tap into such a great program.
Did they give you a reason?
It really just came down to cost, and
Yeah, we worked with the previous treasurer on that
we
as well,
we did
right?
work.
Yeah,
Yep,
and
she had a bunch of information, and we had Mike Barry came in from GIC and met with us, and he just said, it looks like you're better off where you are. And I don't honestly remember like the nitty gritty of why, and I think this was the second time Hatfield had reached out to GIC, because I think he said they had looked at it
possible.
previously before before Marlene and I asked to meet with them. But it's just, it's a great program. It would be, there's some variety in there for employees to pick different plans that suit them, and
Sure.
but we just can't it just doesn't seem to work.
If it's okay with you, I mean, maybe Marlene, if it's okay, you could tell me some of maybe tell me the person you talked with, or tell me the kinds of things you were hoping for from GIC. I'm happy to reach out. Mike Barry, God bless him. Maybe I can understand. Elena did pull the current list of GIC communities, and they do look on average larger, wealthier.
Right.
That doesn't feel so good, right? We didn't have time to dig into all of these answers, but I'd love to follow up and understand why a community like Hatfield couldn't actually
More
see
communities. I mean, it just benefits everybody. The larger that program gets.
Right.
The
The scale helps everybody. But
I
if
mean,
you
I
don't-
guess it's just one of the things I think about in terms, we try to be good to our employees, and, obviously, good insurance where we can get a good rate would be terrific.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it
Well, I
was
would like to
years
follow
ago
up.
we talked with Mike. It was probably before the pandemic
Yes.
that we met with
Yes,
Mike.
it was.
Well, let me go back. Let me go back on
We
behalf
could
of
go back,
Hatfield.
and I actually talk with Mike every once in a while. He's
He's a good
just-
guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and just somebody I know from
I'll go back.
years, and
Dig up
so
information that's maybe
yeah.
Great. This is terrific.
And then the last question was about the state seal and flag. Who had that?
That was me, actually. I always try to anticipate, and I'm not usually right about this, Joe, but I usually try to anticipate what questions are going to come up at annual town meeting.
Good.
There is a petitioner's article at town meeting in May about changing the seal, which is fine. My question was, though, is there the replacement of that seal out there somewhere? Is that going to be asked of us
Very good
eventually?
question.
It's like, okay, we want your permission to do this, and I think some of the questions are going to be, well, what are you changing it to? And so that's really what my question to you is about.
No, perfect question. So as you know, the legislature passed in 2020 or 21.
A while ago.
A commission that was authorized to look at whether or not the Commonwealth should have a new flag or seal. That commission has been meeting. It was slower going because of COVID.
It was extended, I think. Yeah.
Well, no, it got extended.
Right.
So the legislature gave it a little bit of money to do some research and put out the final report eventually and do some public surveying and engagement. But how they're going to do it on the money we gave them is a whole other story. But that's government, I think. Have mercy. But the commission will keep meeting until next November, I want to say. Although I would need to fact check that for you. But they have now a longer runway. And that commission has decided, although it hasn't yet been sort of formally announced, that yes, in fact, the seal should be changed. And the commission has had good conversation about, well, if it's changed, to what should it be changed? And there have been very good, very passionate conversations about whether or not it should have a figure or not, so that conversation is ongoing. The process for ratifying the final decision has not been decided. But the good thing is that Mass Humanities Executive Director, Mass Humanities right in Northampton, it's located out of Northampton, is Brian Boyles, and he's the one pushing a good public engagement. I can't say to you right now that the public will get a vote on this. I do think that the public should and can be engaged. Now that the decision is made, that we can and should change the seal, the next seal, people should have a say in the kind of symbol or language representing the Commonwealth.
So it seems like what we're being asked has already been done.
That's what I
Right,
was, that's
so,
kind of my.
yeah.
This is what I was going to say is it has been done. However, many communities have passed these via town meeting, and it simply gives the commission the support of Hatfield, which is a great thing to do if you want to do it. I'm not presuming what the town will decide. And it just simply says a commission should work. And the commission is working. Again, it paused because they ran out of time and we didn't do our job to extend them. And then they didn't have any money until we got it to them. So shame on the legislature. But the commission is working, and I do believe it intends to finish its charge. And again, I would be lying to you if I thought for sure the public would get a vote. I think it is unlikely that the public will get a vote, but again, different between public getting a vote and public getting to engage.
Right.
And I very
Understood.
much hope that the public will get to engage in some way in this.
So, and thank you for that explanation. I think, again, it just goes to we're being asked, we, the town, are being asked to vote on something which is already a done deal. The seal will be changing, which is fine. It's just going to show the support.
That's all it would do in this case.
And then in this case, and then the flag, the new state seal, will still be up to the commission with public engagement, hopefully, to offer support on what would be what would be changed to.
This is completely correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
is completely correct.
I just want, sometimes we get asked a question, and since it's a petitioner's article, not from the board, I wanted to try to get a little research done so that if we are asked, or if the petitioner is asked and doesn't have this information,
Yeah.
we can address it in May at town meeting.
There has been a movement statewide to ask communities like Hatfield to pass these resolutions.
Right.
So you'd be on a good list of
Yeah.
folks who have said, okay, yeah, the state could and
Kind of a
should.
non-binding resolution.
It's a non-binding resolution, and the legislature did pass it.
Yep.
So it was a long time coming.
Yep.
40 years.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes we're like cold molasses dripping upside down, the legislature. So whatever you choose, that is the truth of it.
All right. Thank you.
But that's good information to be able to,
Yeah, to speak to it.
because I'm sure people will have questions.
Yeah.
So that was our list of questions. You gave, as usual, just incredible answers. And what do you need from us? Anything? What can
Well,
we?
I just want to say that, your advocacy matters. So when Hatfield decides, what bills are important to you, when you decide, you've already told me through your questions, the spending line items that matter to you, it's very useful. So your advocacy matters. If you see spaces where you want to be verbal, right? If you see a hearing that's important to you, I want you to be able to go. And I want to help that. And thank goodness we've allowed remote meeting, right? So you can beam in from this gorgeous town hall and not have to drive the Pike and the 5 hours and and park and then wait for 4 hours to speak for 3 minutes, which is, of course, ridiculous. So, I want you to know that when you decide to do that, it really is important. I don't think, and, Madam Chair, you know this from your own experience, I don't think our colleagues in Boston are nefarious creatures. I don't think they are. But I really don't think they understand when we talk about what fits us. But they do understand real people with expertise who are leading their communities, like you leading Hatfield. So I really want you to feel emboldened, like you are, to come and give us hell in the legislature for doing it the right way. And I look forward, Marlene and I will follow up on an email, to schedule a meeting about your grant priorities. But, really, Chapter 70, Chapter 90, pilot, we didn't talk about pilot. The governor put in more money for pilot, but we have to change that formula, right? Because you'll get less of the more if we keep Governor Baker's formula. So Rep. Lay and I have the bill that would actually give you more of the more. So we need to get it right for rural communities. I do think the door is open, but perhaps when the rural schools bill is before us, or when the pilot legislation is, or when there's a transportation committee hearing on Chapter 90 bill, perhaps Hatfield would consider, coming to testify virtually. If you want to come to the State House, I'll take you to lunch. Or, coming in, sending in written testimony that I could read on your behalf. But I do think it's critical.
Well, and let us know when you need that, because we're,
Elena will definitely do it. She will definitely.
She does. She does stay in touch with about stuff like that.
She will definitely let you know when there's key bills. But if you want to, you tell us what bills you think we should be dogging, that's also fine with me, right? The other way. One bill I wanted to bring to your attention was the municipal building bill. I have a bill to start with Rep. Lay to start a municipal building authority. It got pretty far last session.
Sort of like the school building authority?
MSBA or MBLC, Municipal Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. So this would be for DPW sheds and town halls and public safety complexes. It is, I think, essential that we actually start that work. We have proposed a pay-for, which is critical to getting real, and that seems to be taking root a little bit. And Mass Municipal, I'm happy to say, is very much behind the bill. And so, that's another bill that, we will call on you because you know better than anybody the ache of not having the capital to keep your municipal infrastructure together. And Hatfield, has, you've done incredibly well stewarding your resources.
Yeah, but we still, I think, have some projects we could probably put on.
Yeah.
There's always more projects.
Yeah.
The other thing, I just wanted to say, I think we're up to date with your MassDOT priorities, but, feel free to send us, me and Elena, the things that you're concerned about. I want you to know that we'd love to be super hands-on, so does that mean we go up to District 2 and have a meeting about your projects? We could. I have done that with other towns. Does it mean we bring folks here? We could. state agencies, let's think about who you want to have out. I think your grant priorities will tell us. For example, if you're looking for a food security infrastructure grant, which is a good one, it's in the governor's budget for the first time. It's before it was funded sort of on the side. We would get out the MDAR folks to come and talk to you. So let's think strategically together about, how Boston has, comes west to see you and how your voices are leading the way, in the State House.
Yeah, and you mentioned some people who are really, I think, up to speed on Western Mass challenges, like Ashley Stolba.
Oh,
she's really great. So
she's really good.
She's really,
and
really
she,
good.
there will, I forgot to tell you that, I'm sure I'm over my time, you guys. Oh, I probably am, I'm sorry. We are doing another grant forum. We did one last year where we brought representatives of agencies out to talk to towns. And I don't know whether anyone from Hatfield participated, but we found it actually really worthwhile. Our numbers went up in grants when we looked at it pretty wonderfully. So we are doing that again, and we're starting with MassWorks.
Okay.
Because that, as you know, their round is opening very soon. But, so Undersecretary Stolbe will be, virtually here to talk to us about the round and the funding, but also, hear from you, the challenges, the opportunities, what your ideas are, what your questions are, so that, she can, she knows Hatfield, because she loves Hatfield. But there's, you can pitch ideas, you can talk about projects if you're deciding to go in that direction.
Great.
So you'll get information about that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. What a wonderful, you've given so much of your time, and we appreciate it.
No, my friends. It is really my deep honor to come before you.
We hope you feel better.
It's just allergies. It is all it is. But I'm sorry, I was a little addled because of all my sniffing. But I'm grateful for all of your service and for the work of this beautiful town.
Well, thank
So-
you. Thank you,
Likewise.
Senator.
Thank you, Joe.
Let's stay
Thank you.
close. Let's
Yes.
stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So before we go any further, let's backtrack and do what we should do at the beginning of the meeting, yes?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just quickly read the public participation policy. The Hatfield Select Board welcomes everyone to its meetings and all other public meetings of the town of Hatfield. All regular and special meetings of the boards and committees of the town of Hatfield shall be open to the public and shall conform to the open meeting law. Executive sessions are closed to the public and will be held only as prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is important to recognize that the open meeting law affords the opportunity to listen to the proceedings but not necessarily participate. During meetings of the Select Board, an attempt will be made to find a balance between hearing from members of the community and conducting the required business of the Hatfield Select Board. And there is one announcement that I'm going to read. It says, in combination of developing Hatfield's comprehensive plan and the MVP, which is Municipal Vulnerability Plan, action grant, the school has collaborated with Cooler Communities, a school grant program. As a result of this collaboration, the schools will hold an event, Climate Smart Hatfield and Cooler Communities Fair, on May 4th from 4:30 to 7 in the Smith Academy cafeteria to share their work with the general public. Students from Hatfield Elementary and Smith Academy will display their work on projects related to the comprehensive plan. Some of their plans include models, posters, student surveys and responses, local topographic maps, and color-coded flood levels, and a comparison of Emily Dickinson's poem about environmental concerns from the 1860s to literature from early 2000 to student-produced poems reflecting their concerns in the 2020s. That sounds very interesting. Okay, so the celebration committee is here. We took you a little bit out of sequence, and we appreciate that. Bobby, just in time, you want to come up, you two come up to the hot seat? First of all, thanks for the work you've been
Thank you.
doing. Yeah, we thank you for being willing to.
No problem. So, yeah, we just wanted to come in and give an update on a few things that are happening, some that's been out there in the public and some that hasn't. First is our summer concert series has been fully booked and fully announced. We're excited this year in that we've been able to actually collaborate with the Cultural Council as well and some of what they're doing and have been in contact with them throughout the process, which is great. So we have here, and again, this has been posted up on the Celebration Committee's Facebook as well as on the town's Facebook. Thank you, Karen, for our dates. So our first concert, we're actually doing a 3-hour kickoff concert with Cottonwood, which should be a fun and exciting night, and that'll kind of be our big start to everything in May. We're doing, as we've done in the past, the third Friday of each month. And with us, the nice thing is we've been able to work out with the Lions Club so that that date will stay. So there's no worry about rain dates. If for some reason we have weather concerns or anything here, we can shift over to the Lions Club. So the dates will stay firm, which makes it a little bit easier scheduling wise, in that regard. And then we'll continue on again, third Friday of each month. We have Vivid, which is more of a classic rock band. Full Vinyl Jacket is similar. Decades, which was a favorite a couple of years ago when they were here, and then wrapping up in conjunction with the Cultural Council with the Bad News Jazz Blues Orchestra. So a good mix of different groups that are going to be coming in. We're working on right now, hopefully being able to get some type of a food vendor for each of the events. Last year we had some scheduling issues with that, but the hope is to be able to have that again. Because I think people, enjoyed having that. It kind of made it a little bit easier for everybody. So at this point, certainly if there's any questions on that, again, all the dates have been sent over, so we're on the calendar for that side of it. We will be coordinating with both the police chief and fire chief, just from a logistical standpoint. We haven't had any issues in the past, but certainly want to make them aware in case anything does come up. And yeah, so.
Sounds great.
Questions or otherwise on that, we're certainly happy to address.
Sounds like fun.
It sounds great. I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you for doing this and planning it so far. Putting the whole slate out is just so great for townspeople to know, what's going on. So that's great. Very exciting.
Excellent. And then a few other things that we have going on that some actually are a little bit of a carryover from the 350th, and that the first one is part of what the 350th wanted to do with some of the donations that had come in is a new Welcome to Hatfield sign. So not the state signs, but an actual monument type sign. Kind of think of the engraved gold leaf lettering, that type of a sign. Looking to do it somewhere out on Elm Street in that Elm Court area. Mm-hmm. There's the triangle in Elm Court, but there's also, different things happening out there. So that's something we wanted before we really start diving too deep into it. Wanted to speak with all of you, and then, likely probably with DPW as well, making sure that we're not creating any issues with plowing, maintenance, any of those type things, and different projects that are happening. So we're in the early phases of kind of starting to get some information, getting quotes, designs, and that part of it. So wanted to bring it forward now for any discussion or questions, concerns, anything along those lines.
No, I think that
It
would
sounds
be
great.
really nice.
That's
And-
something that's been talked about,
Yes, it has
many
been.
years ago. And
Yeah, it would be great. Again, but I know, Bob, that you'll make sure you work with Phil and everything to, make sure it's cited properly and, in a place where we can, and that it's maybe something that is sturdy enough that it's not going to, deteriorate
Correct, yeah.
too quickly and, that we'd need to replace or something like
I mean,
that.
the goal is maintenance free as much as there is maintenance free. And again, also something that as we do a lot of the project, it fits Hatfield.
Right.
It's not something that's going to stick out. It's something that you see, but it fits and reflects on
Right.
the community. So,
Right.
and certainly we'll also talk with Kyle on that, different sign regulations and setbacks and that type
Yep.
of stuff. But so we can certainly, from a process perspective, once we have a design, we're more than happy to share that or come back. However you'd like us to proceed in that regard, we'll take our cue from you, whatever you'd like.
I mean, I think we'd like to see it, but I think, I trust you to work in advance with the
Right.
people that you mentioned that you'd need to work with. But it would be really nice
Yeah.
to see it.
Agreed.
And then the next one, and this is a little bit of a follow-up, I think last fall, I believe it was, a resident had come in and was speaking about a potential sign for somewhere out here in front of Town Hall. And that was something we'd actually already been kind of kicking around as a board with the concerts and with everything else going on. So similar, what we'd like to do is take on that project. What we've envisioned, and we haven't laid it out yet, but what we've envisioned is actually kind of a double-sided sign. So the side that would face the roadway would be where you could do larger lettering, kind of similar to what Smith Academy has. That would be your big advertisement where you could see it from the roadway, cars passing by and that type of stuff, kind of for what the key announcement is at that point in time. Then on the back side would be where you could actually post things like flyers. And we're kind of thinking of people that are walking the block, and we get a lot of foot traffic through here. It gives you the opportunity to have what's the most important and what's going on at that point in time, but also looking out in advance for other things that may be coming up. Again, trying to go maintenance free as much as possible, utilizing waterproof material, essentially building like you'd build a structure or otherwise.
Would it be digital or would it be?
No, we're kind of thinking kind of quote unquote old school. Fitting in with here,
Right.
minimize what
Yeah,
we
because
need
I mean,
power.
I was wondering
You
about
have
like the
thoughts, yeah, just-
lighting and,
Yeah.
Fitting into the
Correct.
area.
So are you thinking something like a wishing well with something in the middle?
Yeah, so kind of if you picture 116 and 47, you have the church on the corner has the sign. It wouldn't be blue, but they have the sign there for out in front of the church, and it has it's got the shingled roof on top of it. I don't know if theirs is one-sided or two-sided, but that type of a layout. You'd have each side would open up, so it'd be locked because we certainly would want to we wouldn't want it just a free-for-all for what's being posted. So keep a key here in the town hall. If people want to post, that would we being the town maintain control of what's being posted, and then have plexiglass on each side, so each side would open up and do it in that regard. Lighting would kind of be one of those we've talked about whether or not we do that or not. Ideally, we'd avoid trying to have to trench and run wires and that, but also looking at today's day and age potential with solar or something just to get a little bit of light on it.
I'm going to be perfectly honest, and it's the same thing I said to the last resident who came in, is I have a concern of what it's going to look like in front of this building.
Yep.
With a park next to it. So and who's going to be in charge of updating it, changing it? So I'm not saying I'm against it, but those are some of the questions I think we would need to answer. And I have no doubt that the previous person who was here with the idea, or yourselves, would make it appropriate. But I'm just trying to envision it myself from being on the sidewalk, looking towards Town Hall where you have the stones for the veterans. I mean, there's just a lot going on out there in a little space. I don't know if you guys have even thought about where out there it might go.
So,
But
yeah, and absolutely, because it's a tough balance. And looking actually at even old pictures before the stones were there, used to be the memorial sign was out there at one
Right.
point in time. So what we were actually thinking, and again, this is something have to talk with DPW, talk with Kyle, but potentially actually bringing it between the road and the sidewalk. So now you're removing it from
Onto the tree belt.
facade of Town Hall, removing it from that side of it, and again looking at where we're talking about the one side that would be facing inward towards Town Hall is more for the walking public. So this way, they actually wouldn't have to walk around the sign to see that. They could actually, or essentially be
It would be
there,
up
and it'd be
against the
closer to the
sidewalk.
road for people that were driving. So there is that electric box out there, and we obviously would have to avoid that. But in and around that tree there is a fair amount of space. And I think that preserves the facade and the front of Town Hall, and the memorials that are there, but also keeps it in the center of town here potentially. So So certainly what we would want to do is do some mock-ups
Yeah.
and look at, again, how it fits.
Something that, yeah, I mean, that sort of mimics with some brick and everything, maybe mimics this building a little bit.
And it may be one that we may want to wait until the structure is up as well in the park, so that way, again, you can tie everything together. Whatever the finish is going to be on that, we use the similar finish, and that way everything kind of ties. You don't have, brick on Town Hall and then,
Right.
post and beam in the park, and then all of a sudden we have white on a signboard out there, and you have three different quote-unquote styles or looks.
Excuse me.
So, but absolutely, 100% agree that, we don't want something that stands out, we want something that's visible.
Right,
not
exactly.
that stands out, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
want to make the banners?
And so the last thing we're thinking about doing is, like we did for the 350th, is rejuvenate the banners to hang on Main Street and stuff. So we are going to be looking for got some sponsor packages put together to help sponsor the concerts, the fireworks at Luminarium and stuff, and it'll include putting up more banners if that's, Bobby's mocked up. We used one of the other entrances for our logo concert, for the logos for the 350th, which it looks really good. It's got the wheat, the one, if you remember the one with the wheat on the side.
Oh, yeah.
So he mocked, and it looks really fantastic. I think it'll look really good. We're gonna change up the color scheme a little bit. So we're hoping to do banners. I did speak with Garrett, and he's very much helpful about helping us to get them up, put them up and stuff. So he's.
And so would these be like the other ones, sponsored by people
Yep.
or businesses or
Yep.
whatever?
Yep. Yep,
Nice.
So we just kind of.
They look nice.
Yeah, we all agreed that, so that's why I said it might be,
Yeah.
so they'll just say Celebrate Hatfield and then the business name.
That's nice.
Yeah, so we've
I like
got
that.
some, gonna go after some sponsorship. If anybody's interested, they can always reach out to us and we can, because there's a lot of families that did banners too,
Right.
so that,
Yeah,
it was
you should
nice.
put something out on social media about it.
Yeah, we'll post it up on our Facebook and share it with the town.
Yeah.
And, the goal, and this is similar when we talked with the transition from the 350th and concluding that and the formation of the celebration, is that we want this to become kind of the revolving, and that way, 25 years from now when it comes, or 20 years, I guess now we are from our next anniversary, we already have funds there. We already
Right.
have that seed money, and this is kind of that ongoing fund for it, while also doing events along the way.
Right.
So that would be the plan, is to not just say, we're gonna go spend the money that we brought in and that was left over and then we're done, but to actually have everything ongoing and
That's
be
a great idea.
self-sufficient, so that we don't have to ask any of the folks that are walking in for any money, because we know there isn't a lot of them. So,
Right.
trying to be self-sustaining.
Excellent. Love it.
Anybody have any questions for us?
No, thank you.
No, you
Thanks
guys
for all
have
you
done a
guys are
great
doing,
job.
too.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
We
make a
need to,
motion to accept the minutes for March 28th, 2023.
Second?
motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we actually are ready for the Finance Committee. Is everybody here, Diane? Hello? Who am I doing here?
Up here.
I don't think I have. I didn't get back to you. Although I know it's just a one-time fix. Yeah.
Hello, Daryl.
Hi, Daryl. And Diane and Sean and Kim and John. Hello. We're good. How are you guys?
Feeling better?
Much, thank you.
see you back.
Yeah, thank you.
So are we going to be looking at what you have so far?
Yes, yes. So do I need to turn something on here, John?
Oh, I did.
Oh, okay. That's right, the projector.
Oh, engine starting.
I'd just like to say that this budget has been worked on every day since the last meeting, you know, adding numbers as recent as, you know, this afternoon. So we can go through this right from the beginning and, you know, talk about changes that have been made. So currently, you know, levy capacity is $59,891.
Over.
Right, we were in we had a negative number before. We needed to get out of that negative number. So,
Can I ask a couple questions?
okay,
Is snow and ice in there?
snow and ice is not in here. So as of this afternoon, payroll was posted. The deficit is $146,164.
Not 122?
So it was 122, with payroll posted as 146, and Phil's anticipating another $13,000 in invoices. So the accountant and I had talked about the possibility when it was at 122 that we could potentially take it up at the end of the fiscal year, you know, when the Finance Committee and Select Board do transfers. But I have some reservations now about that.
A lot of transfer.
Yeah, it is. So if it's at, you know,
How much money do you have still?
140 and then the 13,
Right, which is,
yeah.
159, but,
And that's pending, there aren't any, that, you know, if there's no more storms.
no, I was just wondering how much you do have money left in finance reserve. Quite a bit of money, actually, because you haven't really spent.
We've only transferred from there once, that was 25,000, to the
Right.
best of my
There's like-
knowledge.
What, 45,000 there?
Yeah.
Right.
Ish.
So it's 70,000 in there
Right.
currently. I almost made an adjustment there yesterday, but I didn't
Right.
yet.
So you have some money there.
Right.
I don't know what else you got. Well, you're going to have some other money too, because if people didn't hire staffing, you know, there's going to be some money there, like if we didn't get. But I don't know if you have that much.
What is it gonna be, 159,000?
Ish.
Well, and
That's if-
there's always other budgets that we have to transfer too. It would be
Right.
It would be a chance.
Right, absolutely. And that's, you know, the accountant was looking at, you know, where budgets are at this point.
What did the,
I have some reservations about whether,
I mean,
you know, that's a high number.
Well-
go ahead.
you've got $60,000 sitting right there.
Yes.
Right.
I mean. or
So one number
50,000.
that has not, and I was going to get to it, general fund debt, just waiting on a number to plug in for the Smith Academy Pavilion. This was an authorization to borrow in 2019, and the borrowing was never done. So just learned about that a few months ago. So the treasurer is in the process of doing that borrowing. That number has not been plugged in yet. So and then the question becomes, how long do we want to borrow for? It's $55,000.
So this is for what project?
To
Gazebo.
construct this a pavilion in Smith Academy Park.
That doesn't just come out of CPA?
Yeah.
CPA funded about 40,000 of the total cost. Yeah, 55,000 was the town's authorization to borrow.
And then where'd the rest come from?
CPA.
It's 90
Well, you said 40, I thought the
Yeah, it's like
project was,
$95,000.
Actually,
it's what?
It sounds like it's a $95,000 project.
right. And actually, there's an article on the warrant because it's a housekeeping article. Let me go to that. can,
Article 8.
thank you, Ed.
And now you're gonna borrow for it.
Right, so this article passed in 2019. There was a hiccup with the borrowing. The statute it referenced, it was missing a section. So
But that's
40,000.
not the amount that thing costs.
Well, this is additional money, in addition
the
to money.
addition, in addition. Okay, that's
Because
fine,
we didn't
okay.
have sufficient funds when the
Okay.
project was put out to bid a few
Cost
years
kept
ago.
going up.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. CPA funded 40,504. The borrowing is for $55,934.
Which was already approved.
It was approved.
But we
It's
haven't
just
done it
with the bond council.
Yep.
We had a hiccup.
We had a hiccup with the verbiage, but we're,
Correct. Correct.
So that interest has to be added.
So
to the-
that needs to be added to the general fund tab.
The other interests we were talking about, the Route 5
Yeah.
project,
Yeah, that's only $5,000.
that needs to go up, right?
The short term,
Yeah.
let me skip right over to that.
Short-term issuance on Route 5.
It's in general fund.
Nope, nope.
So up here, at the top of this page, the treasurer has advised me that this number will probably increase. And then,
On the other page, though, it's in there at 166,000, there it is.
right here, this is new. Last year, or the current fiscal year, we just had the interest.
So it's going from 3,500 to 66,000.
Correct, the interest, yeah.
And the 100,000 is new.
That's right, that's the principal.
Now, is this another 1-year issuance because we're not done with the project, is that right? We wait until we're all done with the project before you make it permanent debt?
Well, the authorization that was approved quite some time ago was for $1.6 million. That was the town's authorization to borrow. The rest of it was grant money. So yeah, this would be the $1.6 million borrowing.
And when will that, and is that this year?
Yeah.
The 163,000, yeah,
160 is that's for the
160
1.6 million.
correct. That's my understanding. I mean, I will verify that with the treasurer. She was going to try to make it to the meeting tonight, but she wasn't feeling well.
And that's not a
But-
debt exclusion.
I thought some of
That
it
is a
was.
debt, I'm sorry, this is a debt exclusion, yes.
So then there shouldn't be
I know, why,
anything.
Right, so that does not,
Shouldn't
yeah,
affect
that's-
the budget.
well, that was what I was sitting here trying to figure out. If it was debt exclusion, then.
right, well, I thought we were just talking about it because it's new, it's been added, but you're right, that is a debt
Well,
exclusion.
let's,
Things highlighted in green are debt exclusions.
can we look at the formula?
The formula, which one?
Probably at the, no, that's just adding it up. What about, no, never mind.
I thought we had to borrow additional money for that project, or did we get that in grants?
That was
Got
in
that
a
in
grant.
grants.
Grants,
It was in a
The
grant.
additional, I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember.
Million. It was
Million.
in a grant.
$1
yeah, we just received an additional 1.5 in that
Yeah,
An
grant,
additional 1.5 on
Five
top
is
of
the-
the 2.
So,
correct.
So 3.5 million in grants.
Okay. So let's go back to the issuance.
So do we know that that taxation line
yeah.
is
Oh,
not
look at this.
carrying
Right,
to the
that's
front?
what I'm trying to find out.
Right here,
No, do
This-
we know that all the debt exclusion lines are not carrying
Are
to the
not
front?
carrying to the front.
right, so if we go to,
This is gonna be like a mile long.
yes, tell me about
We're
it.
gonna be able to figure it out.
Okay, I'm just looking for it. It's on this page. Anybody sees,
Yeah,
maybe it's not on this page. No, taxation summary, debt exclusions, here it is, right here.
Oh,
It's on this.
okay.
So this is the formula. So I have checked that a couple of times, but if
Okay.
anyone's, please feel
Sure.
free to check it.
So that's on the,
So that's on the taxation
Taxation
summary.
summary.
I was thinking it was on the recap tab.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we have committed for debt exclusions.
So should we, so sorry, Marlene. Should
That's
we-
okay.
Should we now go through the budgets to see what everybody's
Okay.
done to get us down to?
Well,
Yes.
I'd like to jump to the CP. I'd just like to jump where there's been changes made since last week. So this number here was 17,000, and Lori and Patty and I talked, because obviously that's significantly higher than it has been previously. So based on what the treasurer's office is seeing right now, she's comfortable with changing that to 14,000. This next line, reserves,
But that doesn't affect.
it doesn't, but it was just a
It affects the
change.
line under it.
Yeah,
Right,
that's about
right.
it.
So this number here, I was having a difficult time wrapping my head around it, because you know that we have the projects that are funded from reserves, and then there's an article that appropriates $8,250 for administration costs, and then there's money allocated to the reserve funds. So further conversations with Lori and actually Diane last week. So this number here needs to include the CPA projects and the money that is appropriated and put into the budget reserves, the $379,647, which is an article on the warrant. So this number increased. Last week, I had 445,000 in there.
Marlene, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there any reason, I understand that we already approved that $55,000 at a prior meeting. Is there any reason why we couldn't do something to get it out of there instead because of the deficits?
The
we're facing?
55,000?
The 55,000
For the
for the
pavilion.
Pavilion.
You have to get CPA.
Oh, I see. Is there any reason why we can't what?
Why we can't do something to move the money out of there rather than have to borrow for it?
Well, we would have to, if we were to change how we're going to fund that, we would have to rescind the authorization to borrow. That was
Why would we have to rescind it?
because it's
No, I understand, but it's just an authorization, so we just, if you just don't.
right,
do
so you
it-
don't want the treasurer to borrow it. You wouldn't, right, it's,
That's the question I think
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Kim's asking.
okay.
If we didn't fund it in fiscal year '24, it was passed in '19, and we haven't funded it yet.
Right.
Correct,
So,
correct.
Right, so if we
Right, well, I had
delayed it.
believed it was, and then I found
Right,
out.
but it's not a requirement to fund it, it's an authorization to
Right, it's
authorize
an
the selectmen to borrow it.
That's correct. That was the decision in 2019, that it would
Understood.
be
I
a
guess the
borrowing,
question is, do
yeah.
we need to
Yeah. So-
should we hold off
No,
borrowing
you-
it one more year potentially, right? If we haven't expended any
so
funds.
we
Well, should we go back to CPA and say, hey,
Right.
I
Even
think-
better.
mean, Right? I think where we are right now, I don't see why we wouldn't go back and ask them.
That's a good question, good
So-
ask. That's
So
an ask.
if we haven't borrowed from it, where'd we get the money to do it?
we haven't done it.
There are other funds that have been
Oh.
authorized previously, as we were talking about.
No.
We fell short of funding the project because the cost of materials, labor has gone up. So Open Space went back to Community Preservation
Yeah.
Committee, asked for additional funds. They funded the 40,000.
Right.
But it's a conversation I'd be glad to have with.
Is it I guess the question then is it a bill that we owe?
So we don't owe anything yet.
Because the project hasn't started.
Right.
Right, so we don't need to borrow anything.
But Open
technically.
Space is currently, as of currently, they're working with an architect to finalize a revised design, and they're expecting late summer to put the project out to bid.
So then it's not going to be constructed until next construction season.
It could be, I think they were thinking of the fall, maybe. They wanted to get beyond the, concerts. They don't want to be constructing the pavilion during the summer when there's events out there. So that's why they were thinking the summer, put it out to bid, and construction would start in the fall, and hopefully be done well before there's snow on the ground.
May I? So, just if you don't mind, Marlene, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, if refresh my memory, or you guys, didn't we also approve at last year's town meeting more funding for the park because we knew it was going to be, I know there were a few residents who were impassioned about getting on town floor saying, wait, this is the hallmark of our center of town, we want it to be beautiful, let's go for the higher bid. Weren't there actually schematics out there? Lydia, do you remember?
I was just going to say, is Lydia here?
Well, no, I'm just wondering if we had a second round of funding that also was sitting there that we haven't borrowed yet. Because we know it's a lot more than $95,000.
Oh, yes,
So did
absolutely.
we already approve the next amount of?
I don't recall
Never
last
mind.
year doing that, but it's possible.
I-
But prior years.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
We
it was
have.
2019, then the pandemic, then we were on hold, and then the cost went through the roof.
Yeah.
And I thought we, at last
Yeah.
year's town meeting, maybe it was just to get a feel for the design,
Yeah.
but I thought there were some different designs there. There was handouts, right? Which one of these do you like? And we were all like,
Right.
this roof, that roof, whatever.
Yeah.
At
Right.
last year's town meeting?
I thought it was last year's.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
But was there funding for it?
So
It
we
was
had
after
pri-
2019.
Yeah, we've had prior authorizations for design.
Yes.
And design. I believe 2019 was.
Design that was
in
actually we
2019
paid
was
for,
the
that I'm thinking of.
original
not the-
appropriation
okay.
for
I
construction.
think it was the design. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a phase, I should say, the design phase.
Yeah.
Funding for that, then the construction
Okay.
phase.
So it's the design I'm talking about, probably.
Okay.
All right.
So we could put this on hold and go through the rest of the budget?
Yeah.
Sure.
Just a thought.
Yep. Okay. Local receipts, we increased this about $3,000. And I actually, this afternoon, Patty and I were looking at where the current revenue is for meals and room excise. So we could maybe see 35,000 possibly. I mean, that's your call. I'm comfortable leaving it at 33, but I just thought I would put it out there that.
We got in trouble before
Yes,
for
I don't-
overestimating.
Correct. And
Got a hand slapped.
the room excise, I'm comfortable with leaving that at 48,000. The other number we did increase, this was 10,000 investment income. So the treasurer confirmed that, yes, we could increase this comfortably. So that was added.
Interest rates are down.
Can you explain, I know we talked about it, but the fines and forfeitures, can you just briefly say what's in there?
So the treasurer explained to me earlier this week what that is. Those are, I didn't realize it, but for the portion of 91 that's in Hatfield,
Yes.
fines that are collected, that comes to Hatfield. Those speeding violations fines, those come to Hatfield.
Overweight
91 and 5 and 10.
trucks.
Yeah, so, 5 and 10 and 91, right. These are court fines as well, and I believe fines that the town clerk, maybe, is Lydia here? There you are, Lydia.
The $15 for unlicensed dog.
Maybe, yeah,
or whatever.
We don't get a lot of those. It's
you
like
don't,
Well, it used to be a marijuana citation I would get once in a
Okay,
while. That was
yeah.
like 300 and.
I mean, this is multiple fines, but, the bulk of it, where it comes from, I don't know. The treasurer could tell me that. But,
That is true, though, the fines they write on 91, you do get half of it.
yeah,
Deerfield makes out really well on that because they have the way station on 91.
oh, is that still active? It is, oh.
And those are big tickets. Those are little speeding tickets. Those are big tickets. yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why you see all the trucks coming to 91 and going through Deerfield.
Oh,
Through Hatfield.
interesting. What you learn, huh? So this tab, other financing sources, these are other available receipts that we're using for the budget. The ambulance surplus, 20,000, that's for the ambulance lease. Later on, we can talk about some capital projects. I talked to the fire chief about using some additional money from ambulance surplus for some capital projects, so. But anyway, that's
The 20,000 is for, I thought,
towards the ambulance lease. The remainder of it would come from taxation. So it's 50, we'll get to it, it's 53, 54,000 for the ambulance lease.
right.
So
but-
ambulance
but- but in-
fund.
But both are already in this budget.
Both.
Both halves of that.
Both halves are in this budget.
Yes.
20,000, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
Is lottery
Sorry.
aid broken out, and does that, what does that look like from the state does it stay pretty stagnant, or?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know anything
They
about
had a
lottery.
really good year.
I mean, right, when we get like the information we get from the state on state aid, lottery isn't broken down separately.
Let's see.
And I'm also curious about our
Used to be.
host community agreements, and
Well, you know, I wanted to bring up two things with the senator while she was here, but I know that she was tight for time, and I'll follow up with her office. But one is the host community agreement fee, and then the other one was just regarding the hybrid remote meetings.
right.
But anyway, I will talk to her about that. So lottery, I believe, would be, is it in here? In state, this is all state.
I didn't,
Used to be actually separate,
broken out,
Diana.
right.
Yeah,
We just go in unrestricted, or?
that's what I'm wondering.
It's probably
That you can
general
use it
government or
for-
whatever it is.
Yeah,
It is
so
unrestricted.
it would be in here, yeah. There.
Do we have any host community agreements? I know that,
So there's.
but we have more than one host
come
community
due,
agreement, and
basically.
so
Yes,
when do
you
they
are
start
right.
kicking
You
in?
are right. So I had a conversation with a representative from Connecticut, River Valley Growers the other day. They started doing business last year. So again, that fee is paid directly to the town on the first day of the 14th month from the date they start wholesale business. So that date should be reflected in the financial documents that they have to provide to the town. So they're not there yet. And I'd be glad to, provide more information at the next meeting. I just didn't come prepared with that. The, one of them that we should have received payments from, we're in negotiations
Right.
with that. And
And there's a third one.
there is a third one, and that was the most recent one.
Okay.
Is that the one up on, off of Straits Road?
Yeah, that's not, I don't think that's,
They're not doing
they're not doing
anything
anything,
there.
yeah.
Nobody's done anything
Okay.
there.
And it all depends on if they receive the license, too, from the commission, Cannabis Control Commission.
But some are further in the process.
Oh,
and-
yes,
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
How many grow facilities?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're not able to report that, because we should be receiving money.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Okay. Those were just my two sort of receipt questions, was lottery and,
Okay, so we left off at finance resources. Next, financing uses. So these all have, formulas built into them. This is from the cherry sheet. This comes from the A4 CPA revenues. This number here is plugged in. The assessor's office met last week, and they're comfortable leaving this at 70,000.
Great.
However, new growth, let me see, where is
even though
that?
it's such a reduction from last year's?
It was 83 or something.
Yeah, let me go back to that. Financing uses.
Wasn't-
So you want that to be less, actually.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's a-
you want
it's
that to
an
be less.
expense.
So it's based on ATB cases, Diana, abatements that are approved, yeah, and going to the ATB board. So they are comfortable with that. They had thought maybe of reducing it to 68, but in the end, they decided to leave it
Probably
at
on the
70.
average of the last 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the snow and ice deficits is
We
that
have-
where we plug in this year's number, or is that?
So we would have, if we were to fund it, say from free cash, I've got a little note there. If we were to fund it,
Where you fund it from.
then we don't need to add it here. Because this would be, if we plug it in here, then that's an amount that has to be raised, and that affects the recap sheet,
Right.
the tax recap.
So it depends on where you get it from.
Correct.
I understand.
Correct. And we have in previous years, I think last year, maybe the year before, we funded a portion of the deficit from free cash. And then the rest of it was raised
Taxation.
here. Yeah.
So we could do that again.
You could.
So does it make any sense to plug that number in now? Because otherwise we have kind of a false sense of what,
Yeah.
Plug in a number
yeah,
of some kind.
yeah, if you put what was it,
Well-
159?
6 right now.
Well, if you put 50,
So we know,
if you
yeah.
put 50,000 in
50,000
there,
in there?
it would leave you 9,000 over the limit, or under the limit.
There you go.
So, and that would knock off some of it anyway. So if you had to go to free cash or year-end transfers for other parts of it, you can try
Yeah.
to do that. You wouldn't be worried about year-end transfers if we knocked it down, right? If we had $50,000 or $60,000 left, that'd be different than
Yeah,
160.
absolutely.
Is it possible to take some of finance reserve right now and put into that, or do we kind of wait on that?
Into the operating budget to,
I mean, it's
Reduce the
To
reserve.
reduce this?
The snow and ice, you mean?
possible,
The
but
current year.
you could just hang on to it and do it as a year-end
You could do it
transfer.
at year end. Okay. Yeah, but this,
yeah, it's,
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
this
I was
keeps,
going to say, could you just go back to the taxation
Yes.
summary when you get, just to see if the 50,000 came off? Or wherever the, or the
Recap sheet.
the recap sheet,
Recap,
sorry.
yeah. But I did want to go
Be
back to the
tabs, man.
taxation summary anyway, so.
yeah,
So is that
there we are.
9,000?
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yep. And just,
They're working.
Yeah.
just one other thing, taxation summary tab, the new growth. The assessor's office is still looking at this. They work with a consultant, and the assistant assessor is waiting on some information from the consultant. But for the time being, the assessor's office, they're comfortable with this at the moment.
Okay.
Do they expect if it changes, that it changes upwards?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what we were hoping, upwards, because they're looking at the condos across the
Okay.
street.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back this way. Where were we? Okay, financing uses is where we left off.
Go to budget in general.
So would you like to go through where reductions were made?
Yeah.
Okay. And I do have here, I think some of these responses from the departments are worth reading. I just think that people need to hear from the departments. So the select board's reduction is from expense, that's $220. And that was, I didn't put a comment in there, I believe that is professional services. Town administrator and admin staff, again, it's from expenses, and that is for travel to meetings and also professional services,
How come it
consulting.
How come it doesn't show up on the budget differential column?
Well, one thing I realized after last week's meeting is normally you would see a budget difference here, a greater number because of the 3% COLA that was given to all employees. That was not funded in the individual salaries. We had if you remember, a lump sum. So there should be, but I think other things have been reduced.
Yeah.
The assessor's office reduces funds for cost of cases with the appellate tax board. Now, they are responsible for those costs, so they would be coming to the finance committee. The collector, I'm still working with her on this, on her budgets.
So she has no decrease on this?
Well, she hasn't done the 2%. She hasn't given me a 2% reduction yet. She's still working on that.
Well, it's
Both the
only-
treasurer and the collector's side.
I mean,
Her and I were talking for a
What were you
while today, but
talking
we just
about?
never finished our discussion.
You're not talking about a lot of money, but
No.
I'm just saying,
Right.
if you asked everybody to
Right.
do 2%, you do 2%.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And she intends to. She's going to honor that.
So,
She wasn't
I mean, we
feeling
could,
She wasn't, yesterday she wasn't
I mean,
feeling
we
all
So
could
that
just
well.
do it here.
We probably need more than 9,000, we probably hope to
could
have
just
more than
plug it right there.
$9,000 in it. So it'll just add to the,
yeah, I get it. You know, I'm just, in fairness.
Yep. The clerks, town clerk, so this reduces an additional $852 and it limits supplies for mailings. And I know the clerk's office is required, just, or mandated with with mailings. So just being frugal. Planning board, 2% cut is $379.80. It's not a huge expense account, but the cost of publishing the hearing notices. So, if they're not busy where they are required to publish hearing notices, then they'll be okay. But if they do have a busy year, then that could hurt them. Town report, I cut that out completely.
Yeah.
I thought we can just, we'll make some copies, put it on the website, and if, we just won't be outsourcing it to a printer to have, normally we usually have like 300 copies, 400 copies made. We won't have that.
People will still have access to it.
They'll have access to it on the website, and we will have some copies made. They'll be available here in the town hall or on a
Yes,
requested.
by request.
By request, yeah.
were 300 or 400 people coming in and taking him?
I'm sorry?
Were 300 or 400 people coming in and taking him?
They usually go up to town meeting.
Oh,
And that's
They
where
were handing them out.
they're taken at town meeting. But there are people that come in and look for them.
Oh, people love town report.
They do. All right. Public safety. So the police department, this reduces coverage of either 46 8-hour shifts or 30 12-hour weekend shifts.
Okay.
So this pretty much is, it's just the minimum coverage for the staff, the full-time staff that we have in place.
yep.
How come there's no reduction in fire? Yeah,
Because it's already reduced.
So that was reduced, and then there was an additional cut, so it's 182,224
Oh,
less.
it's there, right.
Yeah, it is
Sorry.
there.
My bad.
Ambulance, that's funded from ambulance revenues. Inspection, this is, a reduction in expenses, and will pretty much just, it reflects, he did not want to cut the new software application program that it's going to be, he thinks that he may be able to have a cost savings with implementing that new program. Animal control, I cut that slightly. That was, And there was some additional money last year for some clothing articles. So we get to education. And this has been reduced. Well, last week we saw the $246,297 that was plugged in. That had been, we took that out. The school department has submitted a revised budget. This plus the 2%. You have a handout. I don't know if the school
Do we
wanted.
want to let them go through it now, since so townspeople have a understanding?
Maybe I think a good brief,
It would be,
general
yeah.
discussion about it, maybe.
I know the police
It
chief,
cuts X amount of
Right,
teaching
yeah.
positions,
the
et cetera,
police
et
chief
cetera.
couldn't be here tonight. Otherwise, if he could, he would speak to
I mean,
his
we'll
budget
have to
cuts.
have more time for more discussion, but I think for tonight's purpose, we should at least have a little something. The lowlights.
There's no highlights. So I think everyone has the handout, just because that might help it be a little easier to follow along. We've given you sort of a reflection to what we asked for, which was level services plus a small investment. Then we came back, we had an update that we didn't come back because it didn't affect town spending. So in mid-February, we were, as you guys keep working on those budgets, we did too. We found that we had some lesser revenues coming in on the school choice side. So we made some cuts earlier to the tune of $70,000. Marlene just spoke to what you guys looked at last week. So this week we're back and going to a level funded minus 2%. The first part, the level, getting from level service to level funded, cut $467,537 from the budget. That additional 2% from level funded was an additional $104,822. And to understand the sort of what does that mean, what does that add up to? So we've sort of graphically looked at that, but the real way is to look at just what is the impact to the kids. And I suspect that's where your questions are. So with an override, we would be looking at 2 classrooms per grade, which is a lot of it, great individual attention for students. Without an override, with these cuts, we would be merging, at the elementary school, we would be merging half of those classrooms into a single class per grade. So roughly half of our students, their classroom size would double. The average class size now is 12, but if we made these cuts, we would be looking at a 33% increase. Some classrooms would be up to around 25 students in the elementary school. With an override, that little bit of investment dollars, we would be looking at the elementary school to adding foreign language for K through 6. With these cuts, we would actually need to cut music and art specials out of our elementary school program entirely. At Smith Academy, right now we have 2 sections at every grade. If we made these cuts, we would actually be looking at a single section per grade. The average class size right now at Smith Academy is 10 per classroom, not grade level, right? And we would double that with these cuts. So we would be looking at 20 students per class. Most of the core subjects, I understand, would probably be over 24. Currently, we're able to offer sort of a school within a school for our middle school students, which means those teachers teach as a block group, which gives a lot of support to the 7th and 8th graders. We would have to lose that feature with these cuts, so there wouldn't be a chance for the team teaching, sort of less focused attentions on our middle schoolers. We currently offer 7 AP classes and 2 languages, and that doesn't include French, which is on its way out. So that's 2 that would be continuing forward. With these cuts, we would be down to 3 AP classes and only 1 language option. The additional little small investment we were looking to make would allow us to do a broader computer science program as part of our sort of strategic plan to be a destination district for area students who would have a real interest in this, which would help drive revenue in. We would not be able to offer that. And on top of that, we would have limited use of the library. Our strategic investment would allow us to add some performing arts classes to Smith Academy. With the cuts that we're looking at here, we think we probably wouldn't have the numbers to support musicals.
Numbers meaning funds or students?
Both.
Do you fund the musicals now?
Well, there's stipends that go to people who help run things. There's the cost of, yeah, there are some costs.
Okay.
So
I thought that they
fundraise for a lot of it too.
Okay.
Yeah. We currently, with an override, we really want to add back in middle school sports along with our JV and varsity sports programs. Without, we're looking that we would have to cut the JV sports program. There would be no middle school sports, so we would be left varsity only. And I think our concern being year 2 is that starts to impact varsity because you don't have a JV team that feeds into it. We currently offer 22 clubs that happen during X blocks and after school, and we would have to cut half of the X blocks hours. And we would be cutting our offerings in that particular time by 13. So our variety and choices would be significantly diminished, as would the number of electives we offer at Smith Academy. So while all of that I find significant, for me personally, I find the greatest impact is what this would likely do to enrollment and what that would mean for fiscal year 25. So right now we're looking at cuts for 24, but these cuts would also impact the following year. And so we would be looking at the loss of 8 full-time teaching positions to make this cut. And that's what drives all of the impact to kids that you're seeing. We would also be losing part of our superintendent. So we would cut down to a part-time superintendent. We would be losing some secretarial time in that. And with all of the changes, with fewer electives, with greater class sizes, and loss of things like a lot of the AP classes and elementary specials, and without that little bit of extra money that we would be looking to help grow our enrollment for sustainability, our concern is what happens the following year. So last year we had an 11% drop in enrollment, and a lot of it was a big graduating class, but there was a lot of school choice students that left our district. We just haven't been as competitive. And so I think it's pretty safe to say these types of cuts are significant, that we would lose existing school choice students. We would have a very difficult time recruiting new school choice students, and most likely we're looking at losing residents as well. And the financial impact of that might not all hit next year, but it would have a very large impact the following year. And so the conservative estimate is, if we lost 11% now, I can walk through the formulas, but I won't bore you, we're projecting that we'd probably lose around 14%. The safe bet is that somewhere between 315,000, it's the low end, that assumes that all of that loss would be school choice money, so it would be lost revenue. The bigger hit would be increased cost. So you were talking earlier with our senator about what it costs to send kids to charter schools, what it costs for us to choice kids out, and so there would be an increase in cost as well. So I think we would probably be right back to the level of cuts we're looking at this year. We would be repeating again in a year. So that's a piece of it. And I know you're concerned about staff and facilities. And so, you know, the impact it would have on staff in terms of, it would obviously be a really big morale loss to have to cut 4 full-time positions, which might be 5 teachers, depending on how that works out, from each school. But it also means more preps, teaching different classes, shelving electives that they have worked hard to develop. There would be fewer coaching opportunities, fewer stipends opportunities. It would really cap our enrollment possibilities at Smith Academy because we just wouldn't have capacity to add a lot more kids, so there'd be limited growth in the future. On the sort of farther reaching possibilities, we have a lot of needs on the capital list. We haven't heard a lot about what budget cuts mean to the capital plan. But, obviously we're, a roof replacement or a boiler that needed fixing, if we aren't proactive in taking care of our facilities, we have seen in other districts where those amount to, emergency time out of school that no one has planned for because they've got to take care of dealings after it's become a problem and it hasn't been proactively fixed. So, yeah, it is fairly dire. So, I know Mr. Wood and I are both happy to answer questions. I know you have a lot on your plate tonight, so I don't want to presume, but.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. Christy, thank you for the presentation. I guess I would ask townspeople to make sure they pay attention to everything you just said. And, when they're watching this, to understand the predicament that is before the schools and the town as a whole, if they don't understand exactly what the ramifications are if we're not able to fund what the school department's asking for. We've come a long way, and we've got a great, we, the town, and Smith Academy and the elementary school have a great reputation. And I know you guys are spreading the word and attempting to expand upon spreading the word about the district. But ultimately, the future right now lies with the townspeople. And it's, I would suggest that they, again, pay close attention to what you just reported on, and if they have any questions, to talk to Superintendent Wood or any of the school, yourself, or any of the other school committee members, if they have particular questions about any of these particular programs.
Absolutely. And I think the committee as a whole, and I believe the school, feels very optimistic about the future of our school district. We have a lot of wonderful stuff to offer, and we have a great plan to make it better. So we have some big choices. Thank you all.
Yeah, nice job.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Oh,
Go ahead, Bob. Chief.
I was wondering, the fire department one didn't have its cuts in there. I wonder if I could get 2 minutes, because there was actually additional cuts to that budget. So
Sure, come on up to the mic.
So public safety side, showing the 182, which was the difference in free cash money. So that was just to take us back to that, and then we still had to come up with additional cuts. So just the residents understand, I won't be able to change the filters in the apparatus bay that we use to filter the exhaust, so it doesn't get all over our turnout gear. It would be closing North Station and moving engine 2 downtown permanently, which then would cause a COA van to have to be left outside, because our equipment can't be left outdoors because it can't be locked. We would not be able to upgrade radios and pagers if we needed to. Radios were in good shape. I don't think that's too bad of a cut. We wouldn't be able to send anybody for any type of professional development. I wouldn't be able to take any additional classes because I have to cut that budget down $1,000. Medical physicals, I'd only be allowed to hire up no more than 2 per fiscal year. The senior smoke and CO program and the house numbers would be cut down as well. So I have to cut $850 off of that.
I'm sorry, that's where you are able to provide seniors with
Correct.
those? Okay.
Smokes and COs and the reflective house numbers.
Yep.
A little bit of less of, cleaning supplies and toiletries and things for the station, so that could run into a little bit of a problem. I would only have enough money to have 1 person go to the academy and buy their books for them, and currently would have 2 that would need to go, but I'd have to cut that. And then some business travel expense. Essentially, there would be no Western Mass Chiefs or some of the other seminars and classes. We'd have to cut that down by about another $1,500. So fire department, additional to the 182 that was really just the free cash number, we actually reduced it by another $8,200 on top of that. So the number that's over there, the 146,634 and the 28,850 are the correct numbers, but that's with those cuts that I just mentioned on top of that. Okay? Just so residents understand.
yeah, again, it brings me back to what I just said to the school department. I think, townspeople have a choice to make.
Yep.
for your budget, the school budget, other budgets as well. So it's,
I also think it's good, it's really good to do this tonight
Yeah.
and it's not good
Absolutely.
to hear this tonight, but it's important to hear this tonight.
Right.
But I also think we need to do, an additional meeting maybe that focuses on this so that townspeople, we can, put out information that there'll be meetings outlining these, the implications.
yeah.
Somebody on the parents page last night actually asked for cliff notes. Yeah. So on the Hatfield parents page, I don't know if actually any of you are on it at all or not, but
I am.
The one parent, somebody shared your meeting from last week, which I thought was great, so that parents that go on there could click on the meeting and watch it, and lots of people did. And people made their comments and stuff like that. Well, like, their eyes are open and they're seeing how big of a problem this is. But one of the comments from one of the parents was, "Are there cliff notes?" And,
Well-
and he was very serious about it, because obviously trying to listen to you all talk and talk lots of numbers round and round is very difficult to sit and watch the meeting when you don't really 100% know what you're all talking about, which
Agreed.
isn't
Right.
residents' responsibility. So I had wanted to say that during public forum, and I didn't make it here in time, just to be like, cliff notes are important.
It is, and I actually had a brief conversation with the chief today about how we understand all of this. So sometimes I try to backtrack and not use acronyms and things like that. So a meeting that's, really where things are spelled out clearly and would be really important. I mean, for the sake of tonight, we need to get through this, but I think a meeting with.
Good idea, though.
And maybe people would want to come in person, because I think being here in person makes it a little easier than trying to watch this. So we will get to that point where we do that type of meeting.
Public Works?
All right, Public Works. So highway here, that number is slightly greater than what was initially plugged in there. There are contractual increases pursuant to the DPW union.
We didn't do contractual agreements with the school. Did we?
Well, they took they had their contractual agreements, but it comes out of somewhere else.
I mean, we did do.
The contractual agreements are in there,
We had
but
to do
the
contractual agreements.
money comes out of somewhere else.
Right, right.
We can't now.
So Phil is here. Phil, would you like to speak
it says we
to
cut some
the
lines.
highway department?
We signed the contract.
So expenses
So
is
the
50.
salary stays the same, but then the cuts would have to come on the expense side.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry,
Speak to that,
thanks.
Phil?
Yep.
Can you speak to that?
Sure. So, yes, the contractual agreements will have to come out of the operating budget someplace. So we took them out of the expense side. So that number for highway salaries is up because of that reason. We cut $2,000 out of the expense side of highway expenses. And then if you go down, everything else is level funded under FY '23, except for the transfer station.
Well, street lighting, I'd just like to mention, that has been decreased, although we know we're going to exceed the budget this year.
Correct.
Because of utilities.
Prices went up.
Yeah. So, and we'll be in the same situation next year.
Should have bought those things.
So the impact, I'll just start from the scratch, I guess. For the impact from, the FY '24 budget that was presented, not without any cuts, was up 9.2% over the FY '23 budget, and that was due to utility costs, contractual raises, and other things, the rise of materials. So we took that out and we went back to the FY '23 level funded budget to start the numbers. So with that, we took everything but the contractual raises that we have to pay. And that's where we came with this number. So most of the cut came out of the transfer station.
Yeah.
So with the cuts out of the transfer station, the transfer station will be closed Wednesdays and only opens from 7 to 1 on Saturdays. That's the cut. Plus, we will no longer accept the brush at the highway garage, which is a $10,000 cost per year. So we will have to cut that. Then with the highway, we are eliminating all seasonal help.
And then your level funding fuel,
Everything else is level
Everything
funded.
else
There's
is
no cost
level.
increase for any utilities, fuel, anything in there.
which is a decrease.
You know, we know generally, but you should probably be prepared at some point to speak about the things that get accomplished with the summer help.
Yes, we have an ongoing list of what they do. I mean, just to hit a couple of bullets with the summer help positions is, all the roadside trimming is done by them, all the crosswork painting, the facility ground maintenance, and there's, many other tasks that they do accomplish during them months
Make a
that will
big
not be
difference.
done.
They do make a
really
big
do.
difference, and it's also a nice opportunity for some of our, townspeople to get that experience.
And I will say, as a landowner, without the brush deal, that means more brush that's gonna get dumped in other areas of town that the town normally
Correct.
took.
Correct. I mean, it doesn't cost the residents anything, it's a budget that's been funded through the general fund for numerous years, and, it's something that,
Based on the size of the pile, it's something a lot of people take
I
advantage
mean,
of.
well, at one time, we closed the gates for a week or two because of, we had some things, construction that was going on within the facility, and, the phone rang off the hook. So, it's a popular program.
Absolutely.
So all in all, between the FY '23 budget and the proposed FY '24 budget that I submitted, and including paying for the contractual raises, it's really a 12.2% decrease overall.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
I guess I'll say the same thing I've been saying for the last two presentations. People need to understand what they're going to lose. These things aren't funded. It's as simple as that. It really is. Thanks, Bill.
Sorry.
Oh, that's it.
Health and Board of Health, they're.
So last week, we did cut the budget difference. We cut that from the Board of Health, although they have not responded to the additional 2%. These are the numbers as of last week.
So sorry, I'm slow. So no 2% cut for Board of Health? or-
Correct, not yet, not yet.
Well, we can figure up what it is. They just
Oh, yeah,
have to
we could and just take
Can
it.
we just take 2%
just
off?
plug it
their
in, and they're going to have to figure it out, just
Yeah.
like everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So I
it's
don't
not,
have
so
my
it's what,
calculator.
38,000?
$760. 2%, right? If you're taking it off of both. If you're doing the full.
$775 that we take off? Kim, am I right?
I think Marlene just did it, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
that's
the
a
775.
775.
Well, at some point, they'll need to be, prepared to speak.
Right.
I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's still going to affect something.
You should have everyone's.
Everybody,
cuts in
yeah.
Everyone's cuts.
Council on Aging, the salary, this is with the 3% COLA that was given to employees. There isn't an increase here. Expenses have been reduced, and this is a result of eliminating the software program they use, My Senior Center, and it tracks, it's an excellent program that tracks all the data, people coming into the center. And then it also eliminates the dues to the Massachusetts Council on Aging.
Did you say this includes the 3%?
The weight in the salary,
Yeah,
so that was the 3% COLA that was given to employees this fiscal year.
this fiscal year.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So I haven't touched base with the Veterans Services Officer. I went ahead and reduced $4,157 from the expenses. And that would be for meetings and trainings, which would be unfortunate because, you know, the new veterans officer has been receiving training from Northampton and is very much interested in going to state trainings.
But we are more or less obligated to pay the veterans.
So I looked at the
services,
benefits,
right? I mean,
and there is a savings currently for benefits, not here. If you look at the budget expense report, the number of veterans receiving benefits has
gone
decreased. That could change at any time. So I didn't,
Absolutely.
you know, yeah, that's a tough one.
He hasn't gotten back to you?
No, he hasn't. So I had increased this, the salary, it's literally a stipend. And I had looked at another town, there was only one other town that I could find that was comparable to Hatfield. And so I had increased it, and I really hated to decrease it. I just feel that, you know, for the amount of work that the Veteran Services Officer does for the community, for the veterans in this community, I wanted to avoid decreasing that, and that back to what it is currently. The library, this meets the minimum requirement. I had spoke with the library director, and this reduces the additional hours that were put into the budget, and the 2% has been added as well. So that would affect their hours of operation. But again, it meets this $127,451 is their minimum state requirement to receive the aid. They receive state aid from the library commission.
Do we know what that is? We don't get it, so, but I'm just curious.
Let's see if I have that here.
That's all right, Melanie, I'll look.
I do have, I can
I'll
forward that to you.
It's not a huge amount of money, is it?
It's not.
It's not.
So as Eliza explained to me, you can apply for a waiver, you know, if you can't meet it, but it's a very lengthy process, and she sent me the requirements, the process, and yeah, it is very lengthy.
Yeah, it's probably not worth filling out all of it.
So as I said, I have a number of responses that I receive from departments, and I can make copies, it'd be a lot of paper, or I can forward them to you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Via email. These other departments, I didn't touch anything with them.
Yeah, they don't, right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get us far.
It wouldn't. Okay, so now we get to the general fund debt, which we were talking about earlier.
What happened to the unclassified budgets?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to move this because I don't like where the general fund debt fits in here in between. So yeah, this was.
Looks like she did something with the OPED.
We took that out last week.
Okay.
We took that out last week.
That's all.
We decided not to fund that.
The other line items, yeah, we can't really touch those.
The unemployment, do you think that
So-
on this
yeah.
budget that needs to go up?
Patty mentioned to me this afternoon that she had considered maybe reducing that, but then there's been.
We can't reduce it.
How can we reduce it if we're talking
Well,
about?
she had thought about maybe, because we build up the unemployment, but there's been a number of teachers that have left the district, either they've left for various reasons, and there's unemployment claims, and she just received another one today. So
They left, but then there's an unemployment claim?
Yes.
like I said, there's various reasons why they're no longer here.
So, but I think Diane's question is, in '24, if
Shouldn't we
we
increase it?
lose 8 teachers? Do I have that right? 8 teachers, then
So, and we talked about this last week, that any layoffs will result in an
So
increase in
that
unemployment claims.
20,000 is going to have to go up. And do we know what
right.
that's got to go up to?
No, I don't.
There's
And
no way to know, really. I mean, you're guesstimating.
we have an unemployment fund that we tend to build as a result of
But not if people
claims
are
that come in.
collecting.
What's that?
But not if people are collecting out of it.
If you're talking about 8 additional, yeah,
So
going to be a big hit.
So I'm still going to go back to, we got to put a number in there.
Yeah.
It's got to be more than $20,000.
To increase it, yeah.
To increase it, and, you know, if we can just come up with some sort of guesstimate, we have to put it in if we're trying to get this as close to zero as possible.
Fund it, how do you fund it if you're off? In the,
You don't know. I mean, the treasurer and I have a number of things
you're
we need
short.
to have follow-up discussions about.
if you're short, which we would be by lots of money, my question is then,
Probably 100,000.
when and how do you fund it? Do you have to fund it out of like your next year's free cash or
I mean, it would become like a,
stabilization or?
it would become like a prior year deficiency if you didn't have enough, and then you'd either have to fix it at the year-end
Fix it at
transfer, and if you
year-end.
couldn't do that, then you'd have to figure out something else.
Right, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
at the figuring out something else point,
Well,
because,
you wouldn't have to figure out something after the end of next year.
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could go with it and see what happens. Or, I mean, because
You wouldn't even make it to the end of next year.
Yeah.
You'd have to,
well,
you'd have
yeah,
to.
except you said you have some kind of trust and you don't.
So there is an unemployment fund. Like I said, so what isn't spent in this line item
Yeah.
rolls into that fund.
Okay, where is it though?
I
What's
don't
the
have that
balance?
information.
Oh, right, we don't.
The treasurer has that.
So we
I can
would-
get that information.
Well, we should know that because it doesn't appear anywhere
Yeah.
in the budget.
Right. Is
Right,
there
right.
$1,000 in it, or is there $100,000 in it? I think that's kind of where,
Yeah, I didn't even know of the existence of it because it's nowhere in
The last number I saw, I believe it was around 200,000.
Oh,
Then you could go with it, I mean,
I
you
keep the
could
20
go
then.
with the 20 and see what happens, and then,
Yeah. Do
But-
you have it there, Diane?
Knowing that you might
but
have
after
to.
next year, you might have to do something because you'll deplete it,
From Lori,
obviously.
yeah.
Somewhat.
It's all the way on the bottom.
Unemployment, so it is here. Yeah, so. Yeah, they're supposed, yeah, the way this
It's
accounting,
just
it
tough
is a
to
negative
put a bigger number there. I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it, but if it's a taxation number that we have to
Well,
put there.
you could take.
Now, it's-
No, right. You
Okay.
could take
I
money
saw
out of
something
finance
else. I thought there was
reserve and put it in
200.
there,
Should we need it?
should you need it.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
you
just
could do
saying
it
if we,
for now,
if we,
but
well,
yes.
if we pop a number in there now, though, it lessens
Yeah,
the.
that
Well, you would
is,
have an
that is the
idea
current balance.
By the
I
end
don't know, I
of,
thought I saw 200
by this
and
time
something
next
somewhere.
year, we would have
I
an
will follow up
idea
with
so
her.
you could
So
fix
there's-
it at town
There's
meeting.
been quite a few.
What is the current?
Oh, I see, because this.
It is
these-
less, but I saw 200 somewhere, so I don't know where that was.
and what is it?
Fund balance is going to be a credit, so, yeah.
Yes,
that's-
yes, it's
So
a
it's
fund balance,
53,000.
53,000,
So I'm thinking we should be.
Easy
at
come,
least
easy go.
50.
yeah.
Well, the only place to
gives
get
you
it from is
100.
finance reserve, so.
If
that I
that
can
is
think of.
current. What's the date on that? I don't know if
Date
it's,
on This is,
I don't know the last
314.
Do you
time.
want to pipe in on that? You look like you had
don't
something to
know.
say,
To
Superintendent
also
would know.
find out
on
the last
no.
time it was posted, whether, you know,
I
whether,
think you just hold and see what happens and
Because
try
we
to
have
fix it the best you
claims.
I would
can.
agree. I mean, it's just an unknown.
Yeah.
It might not even be necessary,
Yeah, because the
hopefully.
problem is, we put $50,000 in there, then all of a sudden.
30 somewhere else
Now
is-
we're $20,000 under that we gotta find somewhere else.
Right.
So we leave it at 20 and, I mean,
It is a
I
complete
think-
unknown.
right, and I
Because
think-
even if
Yeah.
there were layoffs, it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean there's unemployment claims. They could
Oh,
find
abs-
other employment, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there will be claims, but you don't know how many, yeah,
Right.
or how much.
Or how long.
And, yeah, and I think collectively, we're all hoping that the town will support an override.
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
but I'm going
There's no
to
guarantee.
follow up with the treasurer. There's a few things we have to discuss. Unemployment will be one of them. All right, we all set with this tab?
Yeah.
Are we good with general fund debt? I know we went to it and then we went over to unclassified.
Classified, yeah.
Again, what are you gonna do here?
No, there's
Yeah,
not
no.
much
So
we
this
can
is,
do
yeah,
there.
there isn't
Okay.
anything you
I
can
just
do with that.
wanted to
Yeah,
make
you
sure.
just
Debt.
gotta pay.
Okay, so here we have the enterprise budgets.
Oh, the
which are
pavilion was on there, right?
supporting- What's that?
The pavilion was on there, what did it say? I was just,
It's here, I just don't have a
oh,
number
there's no
yet.
number, okay, yep, noted.
Yeah.
Yep. Saying that.
Okay, enterprise, and then we have enterprise debt.
Oh, so did you move, since we've increased some of our prices, our, charges to water and sewer, have we been able to move some of
Retained earnings?
that debt over to actual water and sewer debt instead of town debt?
So if you look at I think what you're referring to, Daryl's the enterprise fund retained earnings. So we're funding biological contactor,
Okay.
number 3.
Oh, yeah, there
That's
it is.
from retained earnings.
Yep.
The same with the thickener. So that's a total of $56,460 coming from retained earnings. And then the water filtration plant, we're funding the principal and the interest.
And this is a question for Phil, do we have some money in there somewhere, so if we have a water main break on Route 5 and all of a sudden we need $100,000, which has happened in the past, that we have some money somewhere to help us with that?
I think Tony built money into his operating budget, didn't he, for a water break or two?
He built 50,000 into his operating budget.
Okay, so we do have some money, okay.
But like I said,
I mean, you're not going to make it through a year without anything breaking, but.
Right.
let's be a little careful with the retained earnings.
Yes. Oh, yeah, well, that's why I asked the question,
And do we know where retained earnings are?
So currently, we are using,
Oh. Huh? I'm gonna ask that next.
so cable, I'm proposing to use 20,000 for.
So before we go from water and sewer, and this is a question for you guys, at one point some years ago, we decided, or not we talked about, and that every year there would be at least a 2.5% increase in water and sewer rates going forward to try and keep up, at least attempt to keep up with costs. Is that currently happening now?
Oh,
It's the increase is
It's
greater.
been more than.
I know
more
it's
than
been
two, yeah.
more, but
Yeah.
Is it continuing?
Is it continuing?
Every year?
I would say no.
you would say no.
I would say that with the increases that were occurred over the last couple of years, that 2.5 was not included.
It's not included in it. You mean didn't cover it?
Oh, was it two, I didn't understand Daryl's question that way, okay.
Was the 2.5 should have been, because I know rates have gone up, because I obviously pay some of
Right.
those rates, or we all do, but.
Yeah, from what I understand, those increases sort of replaced the.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
They were
replace that.
significant
It was-
increases
it
in
was
water
too
and
low.
sewer. Because we were underfunded.
Right, right.
We went years without having them.
Increasing at all, and so we
Right.
felt, yeah.
So, and so that goes back to, in 20, I know we just got our water bills, so, but I know in 24, in this budget, it seems like there should be at least a 2.5% increase in both water and sewer to help keep on top of things, right? Because when was our last increase?
It was just on your bill that you just received.
Right, but
So that was trying to remember what that increase was.
Here?
But that was last year. I'm talking about next year.
We did it last year,
from now.
and actually, the select board authorized an increase for next year.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Because we talked
voted.
about this at Finance Committee, and we just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure I mean, nobody wants to pay more bill, but we
Yeah.
can't afford to get too
I mean,
far behind.
We also have, we have to stay on top of it because of wanting to qualify for the FDA loans and all of that.
USDA.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Well,
USDA.
not only that, it's part of a bigger picture of like
yeah.
what's happening.
And,
You know, like
right,
we
making the users.
we built a sewer plant X number of years ago, and frankly, you know, we probably never charged enough to the people using it until now.
Right.
And now we have a $12 million project to fix it.
Right.
And we, you know, we don't have any money saved up to do that project because instead of raising the money when we built the thing and all those years, of 30 years all along, keeping the money going, we didn't do that.
Right.
So now you're in the hole for a $12 million project, you know, because we just basically used up the infrastructure until it was gone.
But for this, but that's all already happened. So for the sake of
right,
people
yeah.
listening at home, that's not what
Right.
we're talking about for this year.
No.
We
Just to be
also,
clear.
To that point, Sean, haven't been able to expand.
Right.
So
Right.
for the most part, the users have been the users,
Right.
as they have been. I mean, Route 5 is going to be different once that project's finished, so
Yep.
that's going to be another route for people to hop on, but,
There's
No.
been very little expansion of the sewer
right.
lines.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
because it's so costly.
it's, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's costly.
Well, now you're gonna have expansion, you know, you are.
So,
You're on the other side of Route 91 now, and so there's a lot more opportunity.
Yeah.
Diane had asked what's available for retained earnings. The water and sewer has $264,000 that is available for retained earnings. We currently we've spent $219,062.
That's all you can do.
yeah.
All right.
So having done all that, we're still at, if we go back to page, whatever, the front page, we're still at
10,000.
10,000.
Thought we were at 9.
We were at 9.
We went up because we,
We read
775 on whatever that one was.
for
Yeah,
the,
okay.
for the Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Thank you, Board of Health. Right,
yeah.
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 Well, and that's about where you're gonna sit, you know.
Yeah, because you don't want that number. I mean, that's a pretty low over number, doesn't, right? 10,000, I mean.
I mean, it's been way worse, but
Yeah.
like,
Did we change finance reserve?
no.
So we
we
talked
haven't.
about, what do you have in for finance?
Last
70,000.
week, Sean suggested reducing it to 40. Yeah, but we didn't do that.
But if we're not gonna increase unemployment, I was suggesting reducing it to put it in unemployment, but we could just as well hold it and then see what happens with unemployment.
See what happens.
You
And
know,
sooner
if you're
see it
not gonna
there.
do that, I think you need to keep it just
Yes.
in case you need it for unemployment.
Good point. Yep.
And there's so many other departments that,
Right.
That are gonna be on
Right, the
the
things,
edge.
well, like the things like fuel costs that you level funded,
Electricity,
that,
right,
you know,
yep.
I don't know if OPEC's gonna agree. That should be level funded, you know, there may be things out of our control there.
Yep.
Well, I mean, with having budgets be so bare bones, it's likely that there could be unforeseen, even small items that will come up, you know? So,
So now are we ready to talk about how we add in for potential override? Right?
I think we have to.
and when you say add in, I mean, wouldn't we use our original starting point that was
Right.
out of balance
then-
by 1.5 million?
I'd start there and then
It's-
add.
I mean, which starting point though?
Yeah.
That's not out by 1.5 million. I mean, we were at 600,000 the other
We were
day.
at 577, I think.
Yeah.
Before we saved a copy.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Best save that we have is 577 over.
last week.
But,
What do you,
okay, but does that can't have the school.
And then by the end of the
stuff in it.
meeting, it was 124.
And
then
the
it was,
school was, we left them,
That had the school at 400 and,
No, I think
Yeah.
less. I think it was,
we need to open that
Oh,
up
you
and
talking about
see.
the other,
yeah,
budget
other
document
budget.
prior to the
Like last-
reducing?
yes.
This one here, yeah.
I thought
Yep.
I thought we looked through that one and it was at like, I thought it was at like
Did look at
1.5,
that last
wasn't it?
week, so we went to the budget recap, that was at,
Yeah.
554,000.
But that doesn't have the
can you
schools.
just go through
Yeah,
the
sure,
budgets?
the
Let's
stuff's
see what
there.
they have
It does
in the
have some
budgets.
stuff in it, yeah.
Okay, let me minimize this.
It's not, this is,
take your time, Marlene.
Oops.
I mean, this is a few $1,000s, probably this whole page.
Yeah,
It's like $20,000 probably.
Right, yeah, it's going into the next one. Once we get the, public safety.
Safety.
There we go.
So it does not have that. It doesn't have the
You didn't-
$180,000.
No 180 for the fire.
That's correct.
So it
That's
keeps the
showing up
police,
right
what does
there.
it do with, let's start, the police, what is it? It could
It's
gives-
level funded essentially.
It's a level funded. And-
is.
And Bob, what is this, you have to tell me, what does this do to fire and ambulance?
$175,000 short.
If we go back to the level,
No, this, right,
If you go to that, with the 173.
yeah,
That's where we are now.
this is,
Right here, the 184,
That's-
688.
that's essentially where we are today.
Yeah.
if we go back to that, it's
184.
Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day is the only thing that we can cover.
Right, it wouldn't,
Have anything added in.
So this is the one you need to add.
No, but,
No.
no, it doesn't here, no.
So go to schools.
I see what you're saying, Diane, what you just said, yeah. Education. So this was with the 246,000.
Yeah, so this has
So it doesn't even,
97 added.
bring us up to,
It covers the contractual obligation, right?
It doesn't bring you to the
Right,
level
that's what
service.
that is.
It doesn't bring you to level services.
Right, that's what I thought. We were going to the, sort of the big sheets
Yeah,
that people
So I wanna
submitted
get-
what they really felt their departments needed.
yeah, so I want to delete this one.
Where did all that
I don't want
go?
to get confused.
Yeah,
well,
that was 2 weeks ago.
so the reason I questioned some of that,
I think so.
Diana, is
Yes.
if we say 1.5 million, 600,000 of that just gets us, right? Just, because we're starting at 600,000 in the hole.
Basically level funded because of,
Correct.
Right, so you get the
what
600,000
are you
and,
saying, 3 options?
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, so-
There's,
We were I mean, there's any number of ideas, but we could talk about 2 options. One that would be,
yes.
I mean, I don't know that you could put like strict label on like and saying, this is level fund, level services or whatever, because I don't know that it actually is all the way in every single case, but you could do like a minimal kind of thing, which would have to be,
This one here.
well, you'd have to do probably a little more than this.
Well,
I mean, maybe not, I don't know, what do people think?
so my thought, the problem with options, and you could give options. This could be the 600,000, you could have $1 million, you could have $1.5 million, whatever. What's the likelihood? What I worry about
Human
is
nature.
our voters gonna just go for the lowest
Nature, human, yeah.
lowest one. On the other hand, do you take the chance, say you go for the 1.5 million? Are we gonna shoot ourselves in the foot because the voters are gonna say, no way?
It's
So-
too big, that's
It's
why I
too
said,
big.
have a, when you go to the
But-
polls, have a menu option. But
Yeah, I do not a menu, but multiple budgets that, at different,
I think that's going to get really confusing.
Spending limits, which
Yeah,
would be
there's-
multiple
I don't-
questions on spending limits, like say 1.5 and then go
Yeah.
below that.
So I missed, because I was ill, the meeting 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So the $1.5 million, the number that's just sort of being talked about, has, and you guys might have discussed this, so my apologies. Does it give the breakdown approximately of what it's for and what the expectation is? Meaning, if we get this, if we get this money, it's going to take care of this, and we're already prepping for next fiscal year 25 or whatever. You know, people are going to want to know, how often are you guys coming back to ask me for $1.5 million, right?
Actual budget with the money in it.
Right.
You know, so it will show, depending on how you do it, it will show what the actual dollar amounts this year are going towards if you vote for it. That will be clear in the budget, right?
Right.
The narrative piece of it, of like, what does that mean? You'd have to explain, you'd have to create something else to do, another document to do that, or whatever, some narrative.
Okay, this
'Cause
is,
the
that's,
budget-
But aren't we also going, if we're asking for more than the $600,000 or $700,000, right?
Yeah.
That would be kind of
We
the
are.
level. So my question is, what can the taxpayer expect? Why are you asking for more than you are currently really showing you need? The narrative.
right, that's what we were, like,
Well,
for the
the
school
schools
department,
did-
that's what we've
yes.
been given.
Yeah, so the schools, the 600 would only add, what, 200 and some odd thousand for contractual?
Yeah.
Right,
And that
so,
was it, so that doesn't even
Which
get the
isn't-
school,
Oh, so that's my question. So really, it's an additional 500 or whatever the amount is.
So
What makes up the 1.5 million, I guess, is the
To get to
question.
level services for the school, on top of the 247 or whatever's in here, you need another $200,000.
Yeah.
So the number would go to
so that's 800.
755.
Right.
And then you need, if you want to get the ambulance, you know, restored.
Right.
Then you need another 170, 880.
Yeah.
So then you're at.
and then you've
what?
got police at a couple hundred.
Police and 12%. That's my question. That's
So
what we need to
so I'm
start.
saying, so
you
like
know.
to get to level services, like
Right.
just approximating level services,
Well,
you're
then
probably
we-
talking near to $1 million.
Then we talked 3%
Yep.
increase for non-contractuals.
Yep.
Then we talked about money
60,000.
for health insurance going from 55%
Just 65.
to 65%. That was $70,000? I can't remember.
The COLA is like 67. The
Right.
3% COLA
That
is
was
67.
67,000, yeah.
Actually, health insurance, I was 259.
It's more,
Does that
yeah.
sound right?
259,
Yeah.
another couple $100,000. So,
I mean, it feels like,
Just to
But
help.
that doesn't, but then you're not talking about the changes you guys are suggesting within the school department in terms of
no.
making it more competitive so that we're not losing kids and we're attracting kids
Additional 264.
yeah.
on top of everything. So it's, you're up around like, all totaled, all in for what you'd really want, it's like, if I recall, it's like 770, right?
Right? Yeah.
Something like that. So that's what
800.
I thought we talked a couple of weeks ago, that there was going to be the two options, the one that
We
stripping
were
all
calling
these
a
things.
balanced budget is what we were working on, our balanced budget.
And then the one, if you're going to ask for what the departments really need to position themselves to survive beyond that, which is not just a Band-Aid on the schools or whatever, police
No.
or ambulance, it's asking for,
Yeah, me personally, I think if you call it 1.5, let Marlene actually work it into the budget sheet, into a budget sheet. And then we come back here. I am going to be away on Tuesday. I'm hoping we can come back Monday. I'll be here Monday night. I would like to be part of this.
Well, yeah, Tuesday's too late because she needs a April 11th.
Yeah, so we need to, so we reconvene on Monday,
on the 10th?
go through that budget with the 1.5.
Well, do we want to,
1.4.
Yeah, I think we need to give some direction.
We're at
don't you think?
1.350, I mean, you need,
Well, I don't know. And we haven't said a thing about police and what we want to do. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he gave us a budget
No,
with
I
what he.
know, I'm just saying, if
yeah.
you put all that in there, it could be well over that. So do we want to find that out before we leave this room? Because if it is, then I personally don't want to come back on Monday and be like, oh yeah, it's 2.3 million. And now we got to figure out what we're going to do at 2 hours.
So
you know?
could Marlene, just for Haas, go back to the budget, the zero budget on the screen?
The balanced budget.
yeah, I was going to say, is there an
Right?
actual?
And then let's go to the school and let's add 6, 7, what is the number?
31,837.
What's that say?
Okay, thank you, Christie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which number is that?
This one here is what,
31,837. That's their total
Does that
ask.
include their contractual
No,
obligations?
yes, because we're going to the.
That includes contractual, that includes, so,
okay,
That includes like the,
That includes our strategic investment.
This is basically what they asked for at the beginning. We're
Okay.
going from 23 to what they asked. Well,
so you're changing
see
this
that.
number? This is what we've been referring to as the balanced budget that we were working on earlier?
yes.
yeah,
Okay, so you're adding, how much
Yes.
to this?
not 700, because have you added?
No.
Oh, is that the,
Well, you cut 2% out of that, so
I think you may need this.
you need a bigger number, right?
Right, the 2 per, yeah.
Yes.
Is that what it is, Christie?
Oh, you know what, I've never done that, but the goal is to get it up to.
5,972,927. That's what you need that number to be in the end.
right,
Yeah, because you cut 2% out.
out of this?
It would be FY '23 plus 731, whatever the number is.
Right.
Yeah, so the 5241 plus the 700
Yeah. If you
gets you to the 59,000.
927. That's right.
not 59,000.
5,000,009, yes.
You
9,
missed a decimal. Okay.
927.
are we making that change here?
Yes.
Okay, so 5, what
'Cause
was it, 5, 9?
We're going to put in the real numbers for
I'm
the
sorry, I
departments.
can't hear.
5972,927.
927.
Okay. And,
There's 731,000,
exactly.
yep.
okay, so then go, well, and on this budget, this gets confusing, you have to take away the 2% from everybody else.
Oh, jeez.
Right.
2% gets wiped from everyone else, but just, right?
Yeah, but let's start with,
We'll start
with the big ones. Yeah.
731, you know what I mean?
So then you
Keep a
go
running
to,
tally.
go to,
Public safety?
go to public
Yep.
safety.
Okay, should we be creating another new document here? Because I think if
Yeah,
this
save
is,
as. Oh, it's on, no,
this is
the
the balanced budget. that we-
autosave is off, though.
What's that?
The autosave is off, though, right?
Right,
So
right.
just save
Save it as,
Save
and name
as,
it something else.
Yeah.
Name it as,
So let me,
You're not on
Yeah.
that.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right, we just gotta,
Okay. What would we like to call this then?
FY '23 override budget or whatever.
23?
Big Bertha.
24.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
24,
we're-
sorry.
Why?
Override.
Maybe we should have done 23, I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
great.
All right, so go back here, and this was 5972?
Kim's got
Yeah.
5972,927.
Okay.
Then go to public safety. And
Talked about increasing this, a couple weeks ago, you were saying you'd increase it by, was it 100,000?
well,
police,
we
I thought he
came in
came
with
in
a
at-
recommendation for police.
for 100, but he asked for
We
200.
thought 100, I
He
know.
was asking for
I
200.
was asking for 200. We should
Right,
put
to
the
expand the
200 in and
coverage.
see what
Put
happens.
the
the number of
200 in.
officers.
Okay.
Let's just see where we,
Equal,
Was that the exact number?
that's what I have it here.
There, right there.
There's
200,
fire,
Oh, that's fire.
that's fire. Red Hook Building.
we're adding 200,000?
Yes.
If that's what he asked for.
Well, I didn't think it was a even
No, it's
200.
477.
What is it?
477, 420.
Oh, yeah, because he had some expenses that went up.
Okay. 477.
Police.
Are we on police?
That
Yes.
also has $65,000 for a new vehicle.
That is in there?
Yep, that's in there.
Well, I would take the
That's part of the
65,000.
477.
Yep, I would take that out.
Yeah,
Yep.
take the 65,000 out.
Because he, yeah, hit
We're
Additional staff needed another additional
additional
cruiser.
vehicle.
Well, we would do that through a
And it would be somewhere else.
About
next year.
Okay,
different,
so,
different avenue to get the.
so it would be
Yeah.
411, right?
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There, 411.
Okay, and then fire and ambulance.
So I suggested that, I know, for this, suggested, I know that we're going through the process with the department, but if you don't put into that what we gave for extra staffing this year, then he's got to not staff.
Right.
Well, and what we.
Because we gave one-time monies.
And what we suggested, or a possibility, is for ambulance or fire ambulance, that we take the 180 out of free cash, so that we've got the whole year.
Right.
So you use one-time money again.
Use
But
one-time
at
money.
least it's in there.
So the number is not 180, it's 248 for FY '24.
That was the extra funds.
That would be that was the FY '24 request.
Okay, so
And
it would be
I
the
spoke with
180
Marlene, and I
plus.
Take an additional 20 from ambulance revenue towards the total that I need. So it's actually 268, 20 more from ambulance, that other funds category.
For you to staff as you are today in FY '24.
Correct.
Okay.
And the only other place that there would be a change, and I sent an email yesterday, is that includes 2 additional full-time, so there would be benefits on the other spreadsheet.
We'd have to look at, yeah, we'd have to look at the benefits, health insurance. We'd have to add that in.
What's that police number, Chris?
Yeah, that looks like a difference of 411.
411,000?
I thought it was only a couple $100,000.
No, that's the total.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not correct.
This is not, okay, so what was the addition?
It was 477, 420, but we took away $65,000 for the,
Okay.
whatever Diane said.
412?
420.
Oh, 420. I'm hearing all different numbers here. It's okay.
$412 and, or 412,400.
Oh, okay.
Andrew,
412.
parentheses.
412, 420.
But that's total, not in addition, right?
That's total.
It's not in addition to the,
It's one number,
Right. You don't need the 246 anymore, it just needs to, there you go.
412.
Just 412.
420.
All right. So I'm adding the 246,796.87.
You're just,
Removing that.
246 and just changing it to
you did the math for the
412,000.
system, Marlene.
I
That's-
see.
Yep,
Okay.
412,
240.
420.
420.
420.
420.
When we were talking earlier, I thought.
Thank you for getting that right away. So you're not tired.
I am tired.
You picked up on that immediately.
Yeah, well, it's almost all salary.
So I don't think we need that $22,000.
Is this his needs budget?
This is the needed budget.
Needed,
Number
number
two,
two.
needed. And so you take this number and then you subtract the 65.
Which number? The number at the end?
But then you'd have to also subtract 22,000 from that salary number.
I don't know, because I thought his budget difference was about 200,000, but maybe that was
It was
with,
268,603 before the 60, before we
Took the vehicle out.
65.
so it would be 200,000. We've only got 165 out there.
So
So
Yeah,
something's
you're going, his other regular salaries are going from 163,008 to 285,440. Right? Am I reading that?
You're
What's
right.
the four,
And then
What's that
his,
difference cover?
and then his, that's just other officers. That doesn't include his salary.
Because he was talking about another vehicle, a lease.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
well-
so it looks like the salary number you want up there instead of the 412, 420 is 385, 720.
385, 720.
And then you want in the expenses 26,700. So the difference was 200,000, but we took away the 65.
okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so going,
So the police
Back
is
to-
asking to fully fund what their initial request was, we need an additional $144,000, right?
Right.
Yep. Making sure it's not keeping a running tally going.
so ambulance needs to be increased, and that additional will come from ambulance revenues?
There needs to be 20,000.
This is the
You said
level.
20,000 more from ambulance revenue, just on that line.
Correct, you can add other funds, another 120, or 20,000, excuse me.
So it'd be 100,
So add 20,000 to what, salaries?
There it is.
no, other funds.
Right,
We
but
want
you're
21.
increasing salary or
No,
expenses,
I know, I
right?
just want to do it one step at a time.
Oh, okay.
121,
720,
922.
She put in.
129,
121,
121, 129, oh,
22. All right. So that's correct now. So
Okay,
now
so-
you gotta
The
fix
line above it,
Yeah,
right.
now you gotta fix the salary and expenses.
For ambulance.
equal.
So now the fire budgets.
You have that number coming in.
All right, and that was one,
If it's easier.
oops,
So, make it easier for John. So the fire salaries, 156,241.
No overhead.
No, that's not right.
We'll fix it.
No,
what's wrong with this?
You're talking fire, Bob?
Fire, 220, fire line salary,
Okay, you're back up at fire now, you're
Yep.
not with the ambulance.
Yeah.
Correct.
156,241.
156,
241.
oh yeah, because you moved some of that up.
Yeah, there's monies that are moved and things like that.
And ambulance is gonna be,
Expense on the fire would be 37,260.
Yep.
the ambulance,
is that correct, the 181, 344?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And expense?
expenses, correct?
And that's it for fire line. Yep.
No, well, I thought we were on the ambulance line.
Now we go to the ambulance.
Okay.
So 37,260 for fire expenses?
Correct.
Is okay, all right,
So now ambulance salary
thought that was okay.
would 295, 795,
295, 7,
95.
That was going down.
And expenses would go to 46,450.
No, that's because that's staffing it at, next year at the level it's staffed at today.
No, it is not.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It is. That is the
This
same level, but would go to full.
2 additional full-time people.
Correct.
In December.
What he has now.
Correct. It would go with the
He
2.
hired new people.
Correct.
Right.
So in the fire and ambulance department would be a total of 5 full-time employees.
Yeah, it's all confused, yeah, okay.
So Bob, if you could do me a favor, so the total budget, second line from the right, are those correct? Just want to make sure all our numbers are down, but that's because we were holding the 185.
Taxation for ambulance, it all has to be
Correct.
here.
Nope.
What?
You're not, it can't all come from ambulance. That stays at 121.
Oh, so we have funded it all from,
121 is going to come from ambulance.
121,920, okay.
Correct.
But this is what has to be discussed.
Correct. Those are just the
Because
numbers.
Those are the numbers
I see
that
what
now
you're
we
saying.
have to discuss if they're
Right.
going in here.
So we're,
Because-
right now, we're showing $164,000 reduction in fire.
Yeah, why are we at,
Name there, but
Because this current FY23, the money was in the fire line.
185 was, or whatever.
moving it.
3 was in that line.
Yep, okay. That's why I wanted,
Correct.
that was the reason I
Yes.
asked the question.
So it makes it more confusing because we moved the 2 of them back to,
right, but it still could be in the fire line because the people are also firefighters, right?
correct. They're dual role. Like, it could go in either location.
We just haven't put it in the ambulance because that's not how we've traditionally funded the ambulance. Is that really what we're saying, basically?
So the way that this
Last year I
is,
didn't do it intentionally. I put it in the fire side so that way people didn't think, oh, you're just going to pay it out of ambulance surplus or ambulance revenue.
so when we talked a couple weeks ago, the discussion was not giving ambulance that money, one-time money, not giving it to them this year and it from any source. But that would mean not running a service,
Right.
which we need, I know we're in a process of looking at all of this and decisions will need to be made down the road, but in the meantime, so,
I thought what we suggested was taking that extra money out of free cash.
and that's what, we just plugged the money in so that we would know what monies we're talking about in terms of if it's going to come from free cash. Or put on here because.
Wherever
Well,
it's,
this, yeah, I mean, this is I think we should spend a little bit of time on this because this is a real tricky point. Like, if you take it from free cash, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to this, I'm just saying, if you take it from free cash, what will you do next year if you in fact decide to continue doing this? You know, I mean, then you'd have to
Then you
go
have to have
for
another
another override
override.
for just for that $164,000.
Exactly.
And so that's just a question. You know, on the other hand, it gives you chance to get whatever you're going to get out of the study that you're doing. You know, well, I mean, you wouldn't have to necessarily go for an override. There might be other.
right.
Well, you don't know what the options are going to be, and you don't know what,
Well, I mean, you have a levy limit increase. You could take it out of there.
I mean, the only thing I can give you for information is that if, no matter which option comes on the table for ambulance coverage, whether it stays here or goes to a third party, there is going to still be a cost associated with it,
Right.
and it is more than what we have available. So no matter which option, it's going to come back to the table to fund either a third party or to continue with Hatfield Ambulance in its current state.
so if
No
you-
matter what.
If you fund it at this level through an override right now, even if you have to ask for an override next year based on whatever the decision is, you've mitigated the number, or the amount of the ask, because you built it into here.
Correct.
Regardless of what we do, providing ambulance coverage
so
to this town
complicated
is
because-
going to,
Well, and the other thing about this whole budget is you gotta add back the 2%, right? You're gonna add back the 2% that everybody else, that we cut from everybody else's budget.
Nope, this is the budget that was submitted.
That's you. I'm talking about every other budget. I'm talking about Phil's budget. I'm talking about
Library.
Library, Board of Health, all those.
Right, if you took the original FY24 submitted by every department, those things would already still be included. So you shouldn't have to add them back.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you took that
in
first
this
budget.
present spreadsheet that we're looking
Right,
at.
we do have to do that.
You do have to do that. You have to go through and do that. And, you know, then,
Poor Marlene.
then the 3% that we, you know, we have to add the 3% COLA. Do we want to do that?
Well, I think we should decide that, absolutely. But the question is, what do we want, I mean, do we want to decide what we're going to do with this?
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
question.
I just want to get some clarification on this page,
Yes.
to everybody's
Well, the only
point.
question left is
Are these the right amounts?
ambulance.
Well,
Or fire,
so,
whatever.
well, again, so police is looking for an additional 144,000.
No, it's more than that.
No, we
it out.
just figured
Well,
out,
these
we
are
took out the
budgeted.
car.
We took the car out, right.
Additional,
Yeah, okay.
right?
That's fine.
And the budget difference for ambulance and fire is an additional $244,000. Okay. The schools are $732,000, right? Do I have those three right so far?
But we don't
I
have
mean-
that in there yet, so we don't have that fire in
No.
there yet.
You don't have what?
We don't have the fire or ambulance, whatever you want to call it, is not in this yet.
Yes, it
Well,
is.
right
We
there.
just put it in.
You're still showing, well, where did you put it though?
In the ambulance line.
On the ambulance
Oh, okay,
line.
so
That's,
So if you net the
We really
two-
want it in fire.
Bob just wants some money.
It-
I'm
No,
with
I
you,
mean, it just
man.
makes a difference how we keep track of it,
Yeah.
that's all, yeah.
Doesn't matter to
But,
me.
all right,
I think long-term, if the ambulance stays in Hatfield, the ambulance line may be the place to keep it because there will be ambulance revenue
right, I agree.
going forward to help offset that
I
cost no
agree, the
matter
only thing,
what.
the only thing is if you're gonna compare years to years, it makes it weird that you now have a $165,000 reduction, you know, but whatever, I guess we just have to explain it somehow.
I mean, theoretically, 2 years, that number will no longer be on the page and
Right.
we kind of
Right,
Yeah.
okay,
square one.
okay.
So we're at $1.1 million,
Yep,
right?
that's what I have.
Give
Yep.
or take 20 bucks.
Yep.
Okay. So,
And adding-
thank you. I just wanted
That
to,
does not
Make sure.
include the COLAs or
No,
the
no.
health insurance.
right, or the
Or the
DPW
2%
budget increase,
2%
or
back
the
to
2% to
everybody.
everybody else, correct,
Back to everybody else.
right.
Well, the 2% will be pretty.
We can be close by doing the total number of,
Aside from DPW,
right.
it'll be, everyone else's budget's pretty small, so the 2% can't be that much. You know,
DPW, it's pretty big.
right, but like the the collector, like.
Right.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm talking about $10,000, like where, you know, there's
I mean,
7,000 out of Marlene's.
Right, we just need to have a nice.
So for the sake of tonight, we need to talk about the big ones. And then I think through the week, the smaller stuff can be plugged back in there.
Take the FY23 number and just paste it back into the 24.
Yeah. Just for Haas, go back to the front page, Marlene. See what we've done.
Yep. Well, okay. I mean, you want to change them and keep going? Or do we want to say, we put the big stuff in, the little stuff has to be worked on this week, and then we discuss it next week?
The DPW budget has got to be increased by 100.
So
Right, we haven't touched
the
that.
COLA, I think,
Okay.
is in there.
Keep going.
All right.
So
I'm
We'll
not sure
pause.
it
Yes,
is,
we'll pause.
Diane.
We'll pause. John's
Diane,
asking
the
us to
COLA
pause.
isn't in here. I was just.
Do you have enough
talking to
batteries to
Diane.
do all this? Okay, yeah.
So the COLA is not in here.
Okay.
We have, no.
We're in our 60s, we can pause.
Batteries are changed.
Batteries are changed.
Break's
Thank you,
over.
John.
Now, Phil mentioned.
Where were we?
Did,
DPW,
yeah.
Public Works.
Okay, Phil. What's your numbers?
So, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I have the bottom line.
Yeah.
So the bottom number for the original request for the budget for the public works for the DPW was 1.336.134.
You're talking, that's what this bottom number would be?
Bottom, yes.
Yeah, that's,
Yep.
that's like 100, there was $112,000 or something like that, and then the 2%.
So can't we?
That's right, that, you know what I mean, that would, so that the 2% is like what, $50,000 or something, 40?
It's 25,000.
Oh, okay, so
So it's one,
Well, yeah, but it's got to be,
I was going to look for your budget. You don't have it with you?
no.
Let me see. All right, I've got it here.
Yeah.
because I think it was a $119,000
Let's,
increase.
let's, we don't need to add it in, we just know if you're,
Okay.
if you add a, what is it, 109, did you say 119?
I thought it was 119 was the increase or something like that. And then you're saying there's 25 more, so that's,
So rounded up to about 140,000.
Yeah.
It's 137,000 and change.
yeah, that's right.
So we just want to plug that number in somewhere for now?
That number.
Yeah, just throw that.
So put it in anywhere right now, and then we'll figure out where, it.
Put it at the bottom, oh, you can't, because that's a formula, sorry.
Right, right.
Into like tree warden where you.
Put it into tree warden?
Yeah, yeah.
So that number, is it salary, Phil, or a combination of,
It's expenses.
it's expenses?
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to add,
Still, it's still not going to come out right because the 3% increase for the cost of living for the union employees is built into the salaries, but you can plug in
yeah.
the number.
Okay, so what's that number we're adding to this, an additional what?
So you just have to take that number that you have, that 1.219.
No, I'm going to add it to the tree warden's
It's
expense.
136,000, right?
136,000, okay.
137.5, say.
137,500.
Okay. 137, 500.
Missed the one, Marlene.
Okay. What?
You missed the
Oops,
one.
thank you.
That might be important
Yeah,
later.
it would. Okay. So, plus 137,500.
So that should come up to what? 183 or something? Yep.
All right.
That's right? 1,356,572.
Yeah, it's like $500 off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close enough.
That does look right then, the 1.3?
Yeah.
I
I mean, we'll,
So 138.
well, they've got one.
I'm sorry?
I'm just adding them all.
Oh, or was there anything else? Is that just for, that just is,
No,
that applies
was
to
a
this whole
submitted budget.
tab?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
so then we go, we add a COLA somewhere, right?
Should we do the 2% first?
Well,
You have
that's
to
going
add
to
the
take,
2% back to the whole,
that's
everything, right?
going to take a while, yeah.
Okay,
That will
well,
take,
all right.
yeah,
That
just,
can be done,
okay, whatever, I'm just
So-
saying it's.
you mean
so
to
that
every
this-
other
yes,
budget?
Yes,
every
every other
other has
budget.
got to add their
That'll
2%, but
be-
we're just getting a
right.
rough idea.
Of the
Yeah,
big
and I
stuff.
Not a
can,
huge number.
yeah, and I can go back and do that. This was 67,000, I think, right? Was it 67 even?
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
I was
about
going to check it, but,
That's about right.
Oh, good, okay.
okay.
And what about the,
So-
what were we putting in the health insurance so that it can be discussed next
much?
week?
So now we're
1.4.
So health insurance, I have at 65% was 259,000, so that was going up, what, 10%?
Right.
Could we just cut that in half for a good
Yeah, so
guesstimate?
60% was 131,100. Is to go up to 60%, but that's at the current level. So still
Yeah, so-
no changes.
No changes here?
No, so it's,
If you want, you probably have to add 150,000 if you want to go up 5%. I think is what we're saying. Ish, you know, something.
Yeah.
Aren't we at 55 now?
Yes. If you want to do a
And
60.
and that's already at 60?
No.
No,
So if you move it, isn't this the number for 60, the additional $131,000?
yeah.
131.
So add 131.
But then, are you going to have any more additional subscribers?
Oh,
That's the number to,
I
I don't know if you will or not. I have no, I mean, I don't know if that entices anybody or not, honestly.
I mean, that's always, that could, from year to year, I mean, if you
could
have
lose or
a,
gain a couple people.
yeah, I mean, you lose and gain people because people have triggering events where they can,
But
you
you
know,
also have Bob's people.
Will you be hiring more staff?
you would have Bob's people.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Yeah,
the
police.
ambulance and the school.
Yeah.
So,
And police.
Yeah, and
right,
police. So you
so
better move that
we
up,
do need to increase
I would
this.
think, beyond the 130.
call it, so that's your 150.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Oh,
You're more, probably 175.
I was going to say closer to 2.
Yeah.
If you're adding 3, well, they're on there now. No, are they on there
But
now?
you're only moving it to 60%, you're not moving it to 65.
Right, but it's coming from 0 if we add 7 more people or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So what was that, an additional 150, did I hear? Or
No, I think it's more
Call
like
it
2.
200,000.
I think it's easily 200,000 because it's got to be about 10
That's right, I had
per
heard-
person, right?
I had heard
No.
I had heard 175.
12 per person?
No, we're over 1. We're 837.
Okay.
That may be just something that has to come off the table completely. And
Well, the increase
And-
might come off the table, but you're going to have to fund that.
Still have to fund
Yeah.
the new employees, though,
yeah, but I'm
right?
saying, but I think that if we do decide not to increase the percentage, I think that's, you know, the argument there is that because there's going to be new employees added.
So while I'm here, I
That
could put
line
the-
already is going up.
I could
and-
put the 10,000 back in here for OPEB.
No,
wouldn't,
No?
no.
I'd leave that off the table.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
asking for an override so we can fund something that auditors like, not.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand.
I see what you're saying,
I
yeah.
understand why. they
Yeah,
like
I
it. just-
understand.
Yeah, yeah.
And not to mention, the amount of money compared to the actual OPEB, like, I mean, it's nothing.
like adding
It's
a
mean,
nickel.
it's a drop in the bucket. Yeah, you're not really,
So let's go back to the front, let's see what that number is, knowing at least there's still others to add.
Was that a drum roll, Brian?
Yes, it was, my attempt at it.
1.6.
1.6, so that's gonna be closer, you can add what, another 10,
Putting the 2% back in there.
20,000, maybe? Whatever.
yeah, you're gonna add more. Because you're gonna, yeah, when you add the 2% back, that's gonna.
So, so for me, the question is, do you just roll with this number? Or once we get a final number, or do we say, go for something less, and then we have to go through and decide who's getting what, where we're gonna put the money, and where we're not gonna put money?
I think you gotta get this down under 1.5,
I
honestly.
think you do too.
Right.
I think it's crazy to go for 1.6 or nothing
Yeah,
overall. I mean, the
Yeah.
stuff you could potentially lose out on
yeah.
for services, I mean, it's obviously up to the voters at that point, but
Yeah,
where does it leave the conversations if that's the case? Where does it leave the conversations not only this year, but where does it leave the conversations in the summer going into next year? I mean,
Well, and that's, I mean, I know that I'm the lone man standing here, but that there is the option of going for that larger number, but having it where it's menu style. Then you don't, you don't, well, you always risk, not getting anything, or, there's always a possibility you get everything, but at least that way. I think these are all things we think about, and this is for a discussion next week.
That's a tough call, Diana. I've really been back and forth on the whole lumping all together.
I agree, I
and the
think it's a
menu.
tough call too, but
Sometimes there's safety in numbers, and other times, you feel people should have the opportunity to make a decision based on what's important to them and their families. But you also don't want our departments, butting heads for it, and they're all important, and they're all well deserving of what they're asking for. This isn't to give everybody a 10 or 15% raise or anything.
I don't think you have, I don't think if you offer it menu style that you have departments butting heads. They can't campaign for it.
Butting heads, but I mean, you know, my department, I would rather I get my stuff versus you get your, I mean, I want us both to be successful, but if it comes down to one or the other, I want my department to get the money.
I think the other question
You know?
to me would be, if you do that, let me put a sort of realistic scenario on the table.
Yeah, we have
So
to.
let's say you do it, and
Do which?
you do a total menu, which I'm not sure I 100% understand how it would work, but if you did a complete menu with all options, so people are going to vote on, and let's say, for example, fire and ambulance, whatever that is, combination is, and then police pass, and everything else fails. And then next year, you lose $500,000 in school choice revenue because the school's collapsing now. Are you going to just keep funding the fire and police department in spite of what's happening at the school? Are you going to take the money now that people voted on away and send it somewhere else? How are you going to manage that?
Well, that's true. If it's a menu item, the money still just goes into the big bucket of, right?
Right, except for now you have expressed will at the ballot box saying, this is how I want the money spent. So you just, so then you just kind of sit and watch it come.
That's a valid point,
Vote
though.
on the next budget at the next town meeting.
Well, right, but so at next town meeting, are you going to like present multiple budgets then? One under which we moved money from here to there, like how, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
It's,
But don't forget, it's also not, I understand what you're saying, but it's also not the complete police or fire line. So you.
True, status quo versus expansion.
Exactly.
Status quo versus expansion.
Because you were saying it creates earmarks in there, right? So. And every year,
Past,
but
you've
to
just had your
your,
basic service that you have
every
today.
year, you know, we budgets start at where they end, what they had last year. I mean, this year we asked them to do budgets with cuts, but in most years they start where they were. We don't ask them to start at zero every year.
If you don't get a budget that's manageable going forward, then next year you're going to have exactly the same problem. Only you're going to have some money that now you've got. And so are you going to make the decision to say, I'm going to keep that money where it is for the next, I don't know how many years you do it for, 10 years, no matter what else happens. If everything else collapses, falls apart, the roof starts to leak, we're keeping that money in the police department because people voted for it.
It's only a portion of that budget.
Right, I understand, but you just said every year budgets start where they are. So that means that in some future year, next year, the year after, you would actually have to, if you wanted to do something with that money, you'd actually have to make a decision to take it away, lay people off in the police department, reduce the services and hours so that you could spend the money somewhere else after you just allowed people to vote for that.
They voted for the extra.
Well, but you'd have to take the extra away. Is what I'm saying. How do you
take
then take the extra
The
away?
extra's going to stay there, though, the money. It's just a matter of, no,
Looks like he's really wanting to say something.
oh, I'm sorry.
I think the menu option could be a thing, but you would have to stipulate or it's misleading to the town, you would have to stipulate what those funds are going to be used for, like for an indeterminate amount of time, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, because it's misleading, I think, at the ballot box otherwise.
Right, because if you buy an ambulance and you get a debt exclusion and that's a menu, and you buy a COA van and that's a menu, then that's a time-limited thing.
Right.
The ambulance is going to be paid for over X number of years, and you know exactly what you're getting. And this, you don't know exactly what you're getting.
Well, I mean, if I'm the only person arguing for this, we don't have to, I'm just telling you, to your point, John, it's a lot, and there's no options.
So
There's Armageddon, or.
So the people of Hatfield look to us.
Mm-hmm.
We've been working on this how long?
Mm-hmm.
And not to take away from any of the voters or anybody else, but if you haven't really paid attention to everything that's going on, and you walk into the ballot box, and you are presented with a menu option, are you really going to understand what you're voting for or what you're not? Other than if we present them with this option or another option, which has a total number that has been backed by us, the Board of Selectmen, and town committees. I just think it's.
I think that there's
it's a
arguments on both
disaster.
sides, and I know I'm the only man standing here, so I'm not going to push the issue. I'm just telling you, I think
we all sleep on it, and we discuss it at our next meeting.
Well, and Monday will be our last chance.
yes.
We, so, we've got to be willing, we have to think, me personally, I got to think about is, $1 million, 1.7, maybe by time it gets added, whatever it is that something that townspeople are gonna go for? I looked at what it would do for me personally. It's a lot of money.
Well, the other piece is, we've looked at the budgets, we've done all this stuff, we've put this together. But I don't know that we've sorted through like a very serious assessment of what are the actual needs of the town and made any difficult decisions about that.
Right.
Like what can we live without and what do we need to invest in? And I agree with you. I don't think we should do something that's, ludicrously not going to work. And, we're going to be right back here next year going, I don't know, But like, are there things here that we could do to bring this down to a more reasonable number? That's my question. Like, and it seems like maybe there are, maybe we can't expand all the services at once.
Yeah.
We've had success phasing things in, but with this budget, I'm not sure if that's even possible.
Yeah, you could cut down what we're giving everybody, what we're gonna give the school, what we're gonna give police and fire,
I think the 8 of us in the next few days should prioritize what we think, with all the time that we've put in, a number that it doesn't have to be in between, but it doesn't have to be a menu, so to speak, but not necessarily what's the fairest for each department, but what's the necessity going forward in each people's opinion.
Yeah.
If it's a $700,000 holdover, if it's a $900,000 holdover as a different option, I think that should be considered. Of what's, if it's not going to go to the town for a menu per se, what's going to be really important from each department, that's a priority.
Right.
Based on what they've already said, and it's a difficult thing to come up with, but it's another option.
Yeah.
I guess I agree with you, because I want to make sure that we're getting what we need, right, without anything we don't need in there, which, and making sure that we're providing the services that are really necessary here, and then not doing things that sort of shoot ourselves in the foot, like with stripping the school budget and losing more students and sort of that slippery slope, or,
Yep.
it's tough stuff.
So then homework for next week? A list of things that are in your mind able to be cut without too much damage to services? Something like that?
You mean cut from here?
From that?
Yeah.
To get that number down?
Half of what they're asking. and they live with 20% less of what they're asking.
Saying you're asking departments to make additional cuts? I didn't think, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't think you were, but I just wanted to make sure.
The 8 of us.
No, I think we've heard, as much as you can from the, I think we have that perspective of what they think they need, what they would do if they don't have anything, like we've gotten a bunch of different angles on that. It's just about making decisions about what's in the best interest of the town.
Right,
As a whole.
exactly.
At this point.
It sets us up for future success.
I think the narrative, whatever we collectively decide to do, the narrative at town meeting is, we're just really going to need a good story or, conversation for people, a little bit of history maybe of where we were, where we are, and where we're going to be. I mean, there's a lot of people that see a number and go, I saw the new dump truck go by, they don't need any more money, or, I saw the school van or COA van, it doesn't matter. So I think that, we just need someone or some people to be able to actually explain it in a way that people, really understand. And we haven't gone for this before. But I don't know, it's, and we have to do it twice. We have to do it at town meeting and then make sure that the same people who voted yes at town meeting vote yes at the ballot box.
Absolutely.
That's, and that's,
Yeah, absolutely.
But, so it's going to have to be a really good education, I'm sure, to schools, I'm sure every department. I know Bob's been on it, and, different social media things to show what they've done and what the accomplishments and things. I know the schools are going to do the same thing, so hopefully people are going to tune into those to see what's going on.
So what time are we meeting next Monday?
Stick with 5, well, we don't need to do a meeting ahead of time. So we meet at 5:30. I don't know, Daryl, what works for you?
It's going to go long. It's going to go long if that's what sways your decision.
Yeah, well, days are long. Let's try 5:30 and I'll see what. Yeah, because it's.
Or even 6, get started right at whatever time you're able to get there.
6 o'clock is fine with me.
6 o'clock. Okay.
Let's do 6.
On Monday.
On Monday.
Monday the 10th.
Yeah.
And we still have to go out over all the articles and all that other fun
because
stuff.
we don't want to butt up
But we have
against
time,
Tuesday.
don't we, on that?
The articles don't have to be Monday
Right,
night.
those are
We have to get a number so that it can go on a ballot.
Gotcha. I didn't see that sign.
Even if we didn't have a
Okay,
budget, we still have to have a number.
second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
John, yeah.
Yes, we just.